then there was two. Whoops.
Hey there. What can I do for you?
Well, I suppose I owe Thargus a favor for sending such a bold hero my way. Or maybe he just wanted to keep all the cleanup for himself. Regardless, you'll find much here to do for the Alliance.
Have a good one.
We are fighting a war for Stromgarde, and we are losing. The ogres, I don't know why she suddenly turned into a troll. The ogres, the syndicate, and we have divided our once great city. Each faction battles the other into bloody stalemate. Actually, I'm a little late. I'm about 7 minutes late, King Bubble. But our forces dwindle where our enemies grow. Though South Shaw has fallen, we must not leave any further ground to be yielded to our enemies. Go to the syndicate base and slay them. We must reclaim this land for ourselves before the Horde has a chance to creep ever further.
Be careful.
Ah, get back here.
Hello. Farewell.
Hello, Zawan, Strassify, King Bubble, Ravenwind, Zarin. Nope, we're gonna stab him in the chest and he's gonna stay dead forever. And then we're gonna talk to him because he got back up.
You got my attention.
Congrats, Extrassify.
Safe travels.
Okay, so we're gonna do those on it.
How are ya?
That's the...
Watch your back. Hi.
Okay.
See you soon.
Sorry, I kind of got to do the quests bit by
Off
piece.
with you.
Because there's a lot of quests that share in Arathi between the two
You
sides.
need something?
Here we go. Okay, so
Light bless you.
that's the one I was actually looking for. Requires leatherworking. We actually have a new add-on working today. The Norami text. The Norami text? What are you talking about?
What's on your mind? Safe travels.
Norami... Oh, normal.
What can I do for ya?
Sick of sitting in this hole. I hope whatever sorry pencil pusher is holding up Daneth to return gets a punch in the jimmies.
Watch your back.
Don't worry, Daneth will never come back. Which character is the most evil in Warcraft? Gul'dan. I know it's kind of a typical answer, but there it is. The Horde. The Horde have held Goshik Farm to the east for a long time. It's never been much of a concern compared to the rest of our problems here, but there's been reports of undead activity in the area. Anything more alarming and shuffling peons over there warrants investigation. This isn't the first time the undead have been up to no good at that farm, so I've sent me best scouts there to check it out. Report to Quay and Kinnery, and they'll fill you in. Yeah, we need to just come up with our own term for the Void Lords, so we stop calling them something that's technically inaccurate. You know? We should call them the Void Dooms. I like that idea.
Need help?
Refuge Point sent you. Well, good to know they're still there. Got some interesting things to check into, Hunter.
Safe travels.
It's funny. Kid and I have been through so much together, and here we found ourselves back in Arathi, like so many years ago. We broke up a plot to create a new plague right here, her and I. Doesn't look like the Horde learned their lesson because they're at this farm all over again. Their undead courier shuffling around in obvious as daylight. If you want to help, go kill the courier.
See you around.
Hey, Javan. Well, I'm an idiot, but other than that, I'm having a good day. Ugh. Out of curiosity, Zoan, did you ever have a chance to glance over the rule set for the Magasei and Azerothian rules? Again, just out of curiosity. Oh, Hey, Jovan, by the way, I hate to ask an awkward-sounding question, but why haven't you posted, basically? Like, I'm assuming there is a reason for it, because of course I am. Because the reason is what guides everything. So I actually have a few things to say about this zone. Oh, it's fine, Zone. I was just curious. Lord knows I understand being too busy. Funnily enough, I actually had time this morning to finally watch the Hearthstone thing. But I didn't, because they're getting rid of single-player mode. Hey, Colgan. And, oh, that sucks. Well, hi. Bye. I guess. Right now, Javan, I'm waiting on you guys. That's why I'm asking. And Rory isn't doing anything, and Kay isn't doing anything, so I'm just kind of waiting. Especially since I kind of shoved you guys together and was like, here, do something. And then nothing's happened, so I'm just like, Hey, Dakota. What's up? As they say. We are in the Arathi Highlands. Ancient ancestral home of the humans. Seriously, this is basically where the humans became great. Humans actually originally settled in what would eventually be called Lorerun, initially in Tears Fall. However, this is where the humans actually became an empire. There were lots of disparate tribes of humans all over the place who were all conquered by the old guard of... I actually can't remember his freaking name. Maybe I wrote his name down. It was in the book. What was his name? Thoradin. Thoradin conquered everything. Well, it's okay, Zoan. I ended up doing my taxes this morning anyways. Had to pay my quarterly. And I wanted to get up to date on that anyways. It's okay, the lag's atrocious here too. Okay, well, no, I'm kidding. Okay, so where the heck is this courier? Nose. That's really weird, Javan. Although I suppose I actually knew that was a truth because about once a month-ish, I'll pop onto the forum because I check it daily, and I will be logged off, and I can tell because it looks different when I'm logged off, and I'm like, aha, I'm logged off. I need to log back in, and then it'll do it again in about a month. It's really weird. Where the heck is this courier? Okay, let's just follow the road, shall we? Anyways, let's talk about the history of the Great Arathi Highlands while we're looking for this stupid courier. So. I was right frickin' there. Damn it. Never mind. No history lesson. Sorry, guys. Alright, what do we got? Oh, dwarves look weird on Talboks. Although I will, you know what? Let's not talk about history. Let's talk about how stupid people are. People are stupid. Moving on.
Well met.
Hey, we appreciate your help in looking. While you're out, Kin saw some apothecary come out of that same house. I'm confident they're up to no good. I just need proof of it before we go do something rash. You got any luck? Apothecaries yet again. You'd think they'd get the message. Let's see what it is this time. Expansion, control territory. Well, these undead aren't cooking anything new. They're just planning to roll over Arathi. We need to disrupt their plans. I'll keep a lookout from up here. You go after Kin and get those invasion plans. We're not going to let these walking corpses even know what day it is out here. Keep her safe, you hear me?
Have a good one.
Well, now I gotta wait for the other player to finish, so... Weird, Dakota. Hey, Kovacs. What's up? Oh, hang on. We might have just finished. Yes, quick.
I am honored.
The plague. Ah, freaking. The players. Okay, so now we have a big old chunk of time to talk because other players. So, technically we haven't really talked about this on stream. I mean, we did when we were reading the book, but we haven't really talked about the history of the humans in the Lorerun yet. And this is probably the best place to talk about it, since this city right over here, Stromgarde, that's pretty much where humans became a power. Humans existed before this, of course, as the mutated cursor-fleshed Frightghoul, but human settlements existed in many different areas, actually. There are reports of them being even as far-flung as Pandaria. No joke. And having helped out... yeah, I figured, Dakota. And having helped out the Pandarans in their fight against the Zandalari. But we'll talk about that in the future. The point here now is that King Moradin, as he would eventually be known, ran around and won. He basically conquered every single tribe in this area. But he did something completely unprecedented. He did what I would have done. I'm not saying that to be egotistical, because even I acknowledge that my own methods should not work under most circumstances. They're just too nice. But he went around and he conquered, and he's like, so, would you like to join us? And everyone was treated fairly. There was no oppression of the conquered people. There was no subjugation going on. There was no... Really? They're just gonna... Oh, okay. There's no subjugation, there was no exploitation, and the conquered tribal leaders weren't told, alright, you're dead, or alright, you're gonna, rot in hell or whatever, or we're gonna hang you as an example to your enemies. No. They were offered positions in his cabinet, not just some backwater post. So all of the different tribes, basically, it got to the point where some of the tribes started actively, willingly being like, can we join you? This was founded the Empire of Arathor, the first ever real human organization. And before that, again, it had just been tribes and tiny little groups of nothing. But with the actual empire founded, finally, they could actually do stuff. And they expanded their territory, not insignificantly. At their height, the Arathor Empire consisted of this entire chunk here, Kultiras, and technically some areas down here, with the southernmost reaches. They encountered the dwarves early on, along with the gnomes, and immediately just hit it off. The two, I don't even know why, other than, yes, it was Little Billy, other than the obvious answer of the fact that they were both former Titan Forged. And that was actually mentioned in the book, if I recall, that the fact that they were both former Titan Forged means that they got along together better than they otherwise should. Which kind of explains why dwarves and humans have always been friends. Literally since they first met, humans and dwarves have been friends and allies. And I kind of like that, actually. Gnomes, too, really. And all three powers were like, yeah, life is awesome. They always kind of gave the elves a bit of a distance, but they actually got along well with the High Elves. If you recall, in fact, the High Elves literally owed their survival to the humans. And I'm not talking about during the Troll Wars. I'm talking about when the High Elves first showed up here and were suffering from things they had no idea how to deal with, like hunger and disease. And the humans were like, well, here's some food, here's some medicine. Okay, so hang on, I need to take this quest like super quick before someone else takes it. And I have to wait again. Ready? Yep.
Del Nadris.
Okay. Ahem. Escort begun. So, shrug, King Bubble. It's not like it wasn't mutually beneficial. The humans had massive stretches of resources and an innate talent for anything magically speaking. Back in the day, it wasn't arcane magic. The old humans in Arathor practiced more of a druidic magic, but still. And the dwarves, of course, were skilled in shamanistic magic and technologically advanced. Great smiths, and then the gnomes were incredibly technologically advanced. And between those three groups, you have a very beneficial organization there. Although royal marriage can go screw itself. I fling that out the window. As I said in a somewhat recent video I did, I have no idea why ties of blood matter to anyone. But moving on. So, The kingdom, of course, eventually did fall apart. I am not going to detail the Troll Wars in full detail right now. All you really need to know about the Troll Wars is they happened a little under 3 millennia ago. Just really long frickin' time ago. And as the Amani trolls were empowered by the Zandalari, who were uniting and organizing them and giving them technology, aka more usage of Loa and whatnot, and they were going to wipe out the High Elves, and once they wiped out the High Elves, they were going to wipe out the humans, and just conquer the entire northern reaches of the Eastern Kingdoms. And let's make this clear, they were going to do that. Hi, Lily. They were going to succeed. Let's just make that fundamentally clear. The High Elves were losing, and the humans were staying out of it. The High Elves went to the humans and said, God, please, please help us. Oh my God, please. And the humans were like, oh, okay, fine, if you give us magic. There's actually some political realities there. But the benefit of being taught magic is obvious. The High Elves were really hesitant about that. But they knew they had no real choice, so they were like, okay, fine, fine. We'll teach you magic. The human mages did something really clever, actually. They taught 100 human mages. And then there was this whole massive extended series of battles where the humans slowly feinted the trolls into a choke point. I actually talked about this yesterday up here around Alterac. And down you go. And as they were up there, pretty much the entire Amani army was dedicated towards that fight, and the 100 human mages all basically cast one spell. Like, imagine... I don't even know how to explain that. That's like casting Flame Strike, except literally times 100. 100x Flame Strike. Not 100 different Flame Strikes. 100 times powered Flame Strike. So, yeah, the Amani were pretty devastated by that. And... between the rest of the two forces and there were a few other significant points of the battle. The human mages weren't the only reason that they won, but they were a pretty big reason why they won. With that done, the Troll Wars were over, and what we had is an interesting situation where the High Elves, humans, dwarves, and gnomes were all friends. From that point on, they were all friends and unified, and will actually remain friends for a long time. In fact, they almost would be friends right now if not for the actions of Jaina Proudmoore. And the Night Elves. Thanks, Night Elves. Thanks, Night Elf Care. Or however that's supposed to go. Come on. There we go.
Can I help you?
No, it does not. Not in this setting, Dakota. You've done a great service. Thank you. Hope she wasn't too much of a trouble. I've seen Kinelroy look worse after a night at the tavern than she does now. You did a good job protecting her. Refuge Point will want to know of our success. Okay.
Safe travels.
Let's do this then. By the way, you'd be amazed how many people ship these two characters. I just thought I'd mention it because it's... So the massive kingdom of Arathor actually lasted for a really long time. It eventually split up into the Great Seven Kingdoms. I've actually mentioned all 7 of these before. Stromgarde, the original, effectively. Lorerun, Gilneas, Lorderun, Kulturas, Stormwind, and Alterac. I had to think about that one for a second. Those are the 7 kingdoms. I've also talked about Alterac a bit yesterday, so I'm not really going to reiterate that. What I am going to talk about is the death of the Trollbane line. Soon, all of the Trollbanes will be rotting. If you know what I mean.
King's honor, friend.
I admit I'm impressed, Hunter. It's a small comfort amongst all that's happened here. You fought the undead and honored the memory of the victims of Southshore. On behalf of the Kingdom of Stromgarde, I present you an official commendation.
Be careful.
Yay. Alright, let's go take out some Syndicate bastards. Again, I actually already, oh, wow. Talked about the Syndicate yesterday. To reiterate, in brief, the Syndicate are the remnants of Alterac, being controlled by the Shadow Council, actually. I have no idea what you're asking me, King Bubble. Oh, you mean different skin color. I'm like, different races? Well, I mean, we know where the gnomes come from. I'm not sure what that has to do with in real life. The only reason for humans to have different skin color is the same reason that humans have different skin color. It's where we're born and the amount of melanin we absorb and the DNA being passed down as a result thereof. Not everywhere gets the same amount of sunlight, after all. So... let's talk about this guy who's about to die. That guy right there, he was pretty cool. His name was Thomas. Thomas the One Joker, and he's dead now. No, I'm kidding. I lost my train of thought. Where was I? After they split up into the Seven Kingdoms, Stromgarde basically declined in power really, really quickly. Now, so it's kind of like this. Stromgarde was very martial, very militaristic, and had a very strong army, and yet kind of was screwed in basically every other way. They didn't have access to much of the wealth or resources or mages or anything else that most of the other nations had going for them. So they relied heavily, heavily on trade. Now, the good news is, thanks to long-standing friendships between their leaders, the Stromgardians, Stromic is actually the proper term for that, I looked it up, the Stromic, got along very well with Lorerun, citizens. I have no idea what they're supposed to be called. I couldn't find an answer for that question. So, Lorerun and Stromgarde were actually really, really close together, so there was a lot of trade going on between the two, which was helpful, and is basically what sustained Stromgarde as a nation. Because effectively, Stromgarde went from being the massive power of doom to just having the Arathi Highlands. Now, I know that sounds like, oh, whoop-de-crap, you know, all they have is the Arathi Highlands. And to make this clear, that these are a fertile area. This is a fertile, and that's true, psychotic. This is a fertile land with lots of farmland, but not a lot of natural resources. There's only one mine in the area of any significance. And they do have access to a naval port. In all honesty, I'm not 100% sure why Stromgarde was so completely dependent on other nations to continue to survive. But then again, it is worth noting all of the 6 nations up north were dependent on the other 5 nations in order to survive. All of them had to coordinate and work together and have trade in order to continue to exist, and to deal with the occasional Amani threat to the north. Nothing as big as the Troll Wars, but you know, there were still a consequence they had to deal with periodically. The only nation that got away with that could be completely self-sufficient was actually Stormwind. And I've already explained why that was when we were questing down there, but for those of you who weren't here, in brief, Stormwind didn't just have access to one nice zone with decent, you know, resources and whatnot. They had access to like 5. They were pretty much had the run of the land down there and could do whatever they wanted to. And that was both a positive and a negative, but again, I don't want to rehash that territory right now. The important thing to take away from this is that Stromgarde and Lorerun were like this. Super close, right? This is important because when King Tyrannus Menethil said, oh god, this guy Lothar from the south has just told me there's this demonic horde coming. We need to unite. The very first kingdom to say, yes, we are on your side, was Stromgarde. First guy up. Now, if you don't understand why that's important politically, if you get like 6 groups here, yeah, no kidding, Dakota. If you got 6 groups here of people, and we're all not in great terms with each other. I mean, we don't hate each other, but you know, we're all just kind of, and we're all kind of okay, maybe, and you're trying to ally them together. The best possible thing you could have is someone who immediately and without hesitation says, "Boom, I'm with you." Because at that point, either A, people are going to look at that and say, okay, well, maybe it's not as bad as I thought, because someone else is doing it, therefore there must be some benefit to it. B, they're trying to be cunning and say, well, they're uniting, and so they must see some benefit in it for themselves. So I'll ally, even though I don't see the benefit yet, to make sure I also get benefit of it. Or C, they will look at that situation and say, oh, well, obviously this is just a ploy to get other people to join up. However, if I don't join up with them... If I don't join up with them, then I'll be seen as the party that is being excluded. And exclusion in anything is always a pretty bad thing when it comes to political or societal matters. So, no matter how you look at it, that was a good move. So Stromgarde was like, yes, we will aid the alliance, the first alliance, and we will defeat the demonic horde. Ahem.
Well met.
Okay, very good, Deutsch. Last thing we need with the undead looming is a gang of thieves distracting us. Syndicate and Stromgarde do battle with our contingent of militia there. In order to urge the rabble to fight more disciplined troops, the Syndicate placed a bounty on our soldiers, awarding gold for each Stromgarde badge gathered off a militiaman. We want those badges retrieved. We cannot allow our cutthroats to take trophies from our brave fallen.
See you around.
Okay, I'll help you take out the Syndicate. Damn it, Zoan! Stop pretending to be Madon. Oh, of course there were King Bubble, all over the place. But none of them ever really shook the Empire itself, if you know what I mean. Yeah, exactly, Takota. It really is a psychological thing. In fact, one of the funny things, this is really off topic, but it's something that's been on my mind lately because I've been thinking about societal standards of honor, is the idea that exclusion was actually once upon a time a really serious threat in human society. It's not really that bad of a thing anymore, but imagine going back, 1,000 years or so. Hell, you probably don't even have to go back that far. If you get excluded from a society, if you get kicked out, the consequences are probably death. They might be worse than death, actually. So, being excluded is kind of a big deal. Anyways. So, with Stromgarde firmly unformed the Alliance got together. The last two groups to sign, of course, being Alterac and Gilneas. Alterac because they're weak, and Gilneas because they're Gilneas. Really don't think I need to rehash that point for the 50th time. The Alliance obviously won the Second War. We've actually talked about this. The catch is Stromgarde was kind of wrecked by the war. Stromgarde probably put more of themselves into the war than anyone else. And it showed, and they were economically ruined after the Second War. Keep in mind, a lot of the Alliance military was actually Stromgardian forces. By the way, quick fun aside, my favorite color to play as in Warcraft 2 as a human was red. Which is Stromgarde, which is why I'm bringing it up. Yeah, anywho, I just thought I'd share that. So, they were screwed after the war. Think Britain post-World War II, they were financially destitute. And they're like, oh god, help, please. And then something really interesting happened. The Lorerun and most of the rest of the Alliance said, we're going to imprison the Horde, rather than execute every single last orc. Now, I mentioned this as kind of a weird thing, because most of the nations actually agreed that genociding the surviving orcs was just evil. Like literally, that was it. It was a moral and ethical quandary. They were worried about the possibilities of the Horde rising up again, but they just couldn't bring it into themselves to order the genocide of a species. So, they didn't. They started up the whole internment camp thing, right? Well, there's two consequences of that. The first consequence of the internment camp thing was that it was expensive. They had to set up all these different areas and all these different lands to keep all these places. Again, the majority of them being kept within Durnhold. Well, I shouldn't say the majority, but a majority. Being kept in the Durnhold lands underneath Blackmoor. We've already talked about him. But there were several internment camps all over the place. That would, it wasn't just a one internment camp for the entire friggin' Horde. So that's the first consequence. It was expensive in a time where they really didn't have money to burn. The second consequence was Stromgarde said we should kill all of those people. We should definitely genocide that entire race. And that didn't go over well with anybody. And there was an argument. Long story short, that particular gentleman, who I believe was Thoris Trollbane, I believe was his name. The current Trollbane at the time. Thoris or Taurus or something along those lines. He got into a significant fight with Tyrannus over this, and they were actually friends prior to this incident. And long story short, Stromgarde completely withdrew from the alliance, and then everything just started going bad to worse for Stromgarde from that point onward. Probably unrelated consequence, but... So yeah, the next thing they had to deal with was the fact that their king, the Trollbane I just mentioned, was assassinated. Now, I went digging, because I was like, wait a minute, I don't actually remember who assassinated him, or how he was assassinated. I went digging. I couldn't find any information. Apparently, they just haven't written that on who exactly assassinated him or why. I could speculate in a vacuum, but I don't have an answer for you as who actually killed him. With him dead, Stromgarde just kind of started breaking down. Not long after that, there was this group of people called the Syndicate. These guys, who, if you'll remember, are former Alteracs. Possibly Takoida. Or he might have been a decent person, who knows. Either way, the Syndicate moved in, and so did one of the roaming tribes of ogres. In fact, arguably the second most powerful remaining tribe of ogres left on Azeroth. I'm just going to show you them really quick, because they're over here. They're the Boulderfist clan. You may actually remember them from Outland, because there's Boulderfist out there, too. There we go. Boulderfist orcs. Ogres. Excuse me, Boulderfist ogres. The Witherbark trolls ended up working with them, too. See, these were ogres who were left over from the Second War, and trolls who had allied with the demonic horde during the Second War, who were kind of left to fend for themselves because the demonic horde ceased to exist. And they couldn't really go back home, and they couldn't really go anywhere else. So they looked at the weakest target they could find, and they said, yeah, we'll go there. So the Syndicate, the Boulderfist, and the Witherbark all showed up and were like, yep, we're going to go ahead and take over Stromgarde City, which is this city right here. As you can see, it's kind of in ruins. Speaking of which, we keep talking about how it'd be great to retake Gilneas, how it'd be great to rebuild Westfall and all that. I gotta admit, if I had to pick probably the first place I would love to reclaim and turn into a proper hub and city and whatnot, would be Stromgarde. Oh yeah, there are some Stromgardians, excuse me, Stromic, who still remain in here. Hi, Jenkies, by the way. So, yeah, Stromgarde technically doesn't even exist right now. Not as an actual nation. There are Stromgardians still out there. They actually call themselves the League of Arathor, primarily. And there are, see, they control what is effectively one of the old residential quarters of Stromgarde City. And again, in lore, this is larger than we're actually seeing, because MMO game, etc. But, overall, Stromgarde as a major world power has ceased to be. Right now, they are best described as, I'd say, a tribe, if I had to use a term to describe them. Not that I'm saying that as an insult. Like I said, I would love to see Stromgarde actually rebuilt as a city. That would be awesome. And of course, they have basically lost all holding on the entirety of the Highlands. In fact, if you were to look around here, this entire place has been chopped up between the trolls down here, the Boulderfist up here, and the trolls, the Syndicate up here, and the Horde over here. Yes, I would also like Danoth to come back, or Danath, or however you're supposed to say his damn name. For a little bit of perspective, so there were 2 Trollbanes left here. Obviously, Danath Trollbane is the gentleman we met in Outland. He's the one who went with them during Warcraft 2's expansion, the one who journeyed into Draenor and survived there when it became Outland. Danath is, at this point in time, the only breathing member of the Trollbanes. There is actually one other member of the Trollbane family who is still alive. He just happens to be working with the Forsaken. Because he realized, you know, they're good folk. Maybe I should work for them instead. He's undead, if I'm not making that clear enough. But he was the guy who was in charge prior to these incidents and is now. He was actually alive in vanilla. And he died, not to the Horde, I want to make that clear. He actually died to the Boulderfist and the Syndicate and all those bastards. And he was risen back up as Forsaken, and he is now part of the Forsaken. I just feel like pointing this out because he is actually the person who is the current, you know, if you're following the nobility chain, he is the person who has the greatest claim on being king of Stromgarde. Danoth? I really have no idea how to say that name. I'm just going to keep saying Danoth, because that's how I usually do my A's. Danoth is a nephew of the former king, Thoris, the gentleman who was assassinated by Genghis, apparently. Whereas Galen, or however you say his name, is closer in the family chain there. I think he's a son. So we've got son versus nephew as far as claims to the throne. Just pointing it out.
Hey there.
All right, we got our badges yet. Thank you, Deutsch. We'll inform the families of these fallen soldiers they were killed in battle.
Be careful.
Let's see here. Privates Theoric, Kitrin, Blythe, Agmond, Martins, Reblock, Adonai, Nixon. So many lost. So many more we must lose before this battle ends. Thank you for the badges, Deutsch. I'll send news to the family of the deceased. Now, forgive me for entering what is effectively fanfic territory here, but you know what I would love to see? Let's say the Forsaken stop being evil. Let's just start with that, okay? So the Forsaken are now a force of, at the very least, neutral, okay? But not evil. And let's say that Danoth comes back and is like, holy crap, we're screwed. Because, let's be honest, Stromgarde is screwed as a people. Or, excuse me, yeah, Stromgarde is screwed at this point as a people. Like I said, they barely qualified to be a tribe. So, what if Danoth, I don't know, Danoth and Galen start working together and say, you know what? Why don't we make this work together? Because the Stromgarde people don't have the resources or material or manpower or anything, really, to actually reclaim Stromgarde Fortress. They haven't for years. The Forsaken do. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, that's stupid. Why not just have the Alliance help them? That's a good question. This is a one-joker. Why has the Alliance not helped Stromgarde for years? Of course, I already know the answer to this question. The Alliance basically can't. The dwarves and gnomes are doing their own thing. The night elves don't give a damn. The Worgen are all focused on Gilnean. So, oh, I want to go this way. That's right, they added a new path here. That just leaves the humans. And we've kind of already talked about how Stormwind is economically screwed and has been for years, thanks to the series of events that have happened since Warcraft 3. So, yeah, no one's actually in a particularly good position amongst the Alliance to help Stromgarde, which is a damn shame, I feel like pointing out. Yeah, exactly, Zoan. Like I said. So, all I'm saying is I think it would be pretty cool if the Forsaken and Danoth, who, remember, are actually family, got together and were like, you know what? Let's actually make this work, shall we? Let's make Stromgarde work again. And then we could see the reunited Stromgarde with Forsaken living alongside humans, and oh, that would be awesome. All right, I'm done fanficking here, but I think that would be really cool. So, that's pretty much the history of Arathor in a nutshell. I missed over a few details, but that's the vast majority of it. We're going to shift gears here for a moment and talk about one of the reasons why Booty Bay was under attack. Back when we were there, I actually mentioned this when we were under attack in Booty Bay, because the Blackwaters, their fleet was actually kind of screwed. There's actually one of their ships right there underwater, and here's another one of them. The Blackwater ships should have been back home in the harbor to help defend against the Bloodsail attack. They weren't because they were here. So we're going to go ahead and try and help them get underway again, because, let's be honest, the Blackwater are actually pretty decent pirates. Like I said, these are like Pirates of the Caribbean pirates, kind of like the North Sea were, as opposed to the Bloodsails or the South Sea, who are closer to actual pirates. Still not actual pirates, because nothing in Warcraft is equivalent to an actual pirate. I can't agree with that, Zoan, but we've talked about that a trillion times. The Argent Dawn are based up here in Hearthglen, and over here, over here, there we go, at Light's Hope Chapel. So, a little bit of geography. They're up here. Stromgarde is down here. Not saying it's invalid. In fact, again, one of the points is that Stromgarde used to be a big harbor power. If you're paying attention, that means the major harbors along this coast were Gilneas, Stromgarde, Stormwind, and technically Booty Bay nowadays. But the point is, that's it. Those are the major harbors of the entire continent. So having access to this harbor would not be a really bad boon for whoever has it.
Greetings.
Alright, gotta do the pirate voice. Hey, Darker.
Ahoy, hunter, any friend of Squirtle's a friend of mine. We'll be finding plenty of work that needs be doing around here. We're not sitting in this cove twiddling our thumbs by choice.
See you later.
Yeah, Kulturas. Yeah, that's true. You're right. I forgot about Kulturas. Because they're not on the freaking map! Because they don't freaking exist for some reason, even though they're, like, right here! I could literally get on a flying mount, and I could just get up into the right area here and fly out to where Kulturas should be. Like, the fatigue, with my fast flying, I could actually reach that area without actually dying yet. It would just be water, because it's not frickin' there. Although Schmeidolf is correct. That's an island port, not a part of the continent. But either way, my point still stands.
Hi, how are you?
Now that we be full-fledged Blackwater Raiders, yar, it's our job to help Mr. O'Brien locate lost elven treasure. Ooh. It is next to impossible to find the gems in the Dark Sea without the aid. The Doctor has constructed some goggles that'll help. He'll need the goggles charged with energy derived from the enchanted stone. Oh, but the cave is cursed. When we get close, we get ambushed. Defend me, and I can harness the energy from the stones. Yar.
Be seeing you.
Honestly, Darker, I don't think he could do it by himself, to be completely blunt. The problem is Daneth is not exactly a bad guy and a bad leader, as evidenced by the fact that he survived in Outland for like 20 years. But he needs resources, he needs manpower, he needs soldiers. He doesn't have any of those here. He's, like I said, Stromgarde is like a tribe right now. Anyways, I discovered this cave our first day here, yar. I believe the energy in this stone can be used to our advantage. I'll be drawing energy from the stone. Your job, Deutsch, is to defend me, yar. Place is cursed, trust me. Okay. I'll just hang out. By the way, I like this guy's backstory. Basically, he's just a completely normal, gnomish inventor who always dreamed of living a life as a pirate. So he, like, begged and begged and begged for the Blackwater to take him in, and finally they're like, okay, fine. And now he's eager to prove himself to the Blackwater Raiders. I'm not sure what a Raider is. Yeah, don't be... Schmeidolf, come on, this is real life, okay?
I've done it.
Wow, that's a lot easier than I remember.
I've harnessed the power of the stone into the goggles, yar. Let's get out of here, me hearties.
What's on your mind?
Ugh, it is a horrible life. I should be sitting in a watery grave right now, not sitting by the fire, breathing fresh air. The crew tried so hard to save my beautiful maiden's folly. Bless the boys, bless their hearts. O'Brien made us ashore safely, but we weren't so lucky. The seas just sank on us, I swear. 1 second we're afloat and the next the water's rushing in. And those beasts killed all the survivors. Horrible Naga scum. I went black and ended up here, saved. I want them dead.
Off with you.
Greetings.
The goggles work perfectly now. Well done, Deutsch. The treasure has been on the seafloor so long, the gems have calcified into thick stone. But the power harnessed in these goggles will allow you to locate them easily. A little gnomish ingenuity goes a long way. So borrow the goggles of gem hunting. See if you can collect some of them for the captain. I'd swim down there myself, but, well, I have some important scientific business to tend to, so, on the safe, dry land.
Daylight's burning.
Sure. I can just picture... So I've given my ideal way of how Stromgarde would be reclaimed. I'm just picturing Zawun, picturing Danoth just going through by himself, wiping out all opposition, and single-handedly, without any other people whatsoever, just building this massive... rebuilding all of Stromgarde. By himself, with his own 2 hands. So, fun fact, this is actually... This area right here, this underwater area,
was actually probably one of my favorite spots for Mithril back in the day. No joke. Almost no one mined around here, so it was one of the only areas that was relatively free of other players. And we know how much I hate other players. A dwarven boat? That's a good question. It would probably be something along the lines of, what are those things called? Oh, I can't think what they're called. An ironclad. I picture something along the lines of an ironclad for a dwarven boat. Probably with some big, ugly dwarven mug on the front. Kind of like with the dam, for example. You know, this is really off topic, but I wonder how much of a priority where's he getting the monies, to pay for them? I wonder how much of a priority the dwarven people in general, now that they are a unified kingdom, as of now, after Pandaria for the first time in about 230 years, how much of a priority they're going to put on rebuilding the dam. Because rebuilding that dam was actually going to be really, really important for dwarvish societies flourishing in the future. From you. The player character's like, here's a few thousand gold. Go reclaim Stromgarde. No, let's be honest. They're never going to go back to Stromgarde. They've kind of forgotten Stromgarde exists. It's not the only piece of, lore and setting that's basically just abandoned at this point in time, and that kind of sucks. But that is the nature of it. And not only is war, it's one of the ironic downsides of being an incredibly vast wealth of lore, is that occasionally some of that lore just kind of gets left behind as they focus on other things. The benefit is every now and again they go back to stuff. And this is a Legion spoiler, for anybody who still would like to avoid that. This is your audio warning. For example, they've been talking about how there's some deep darkness cursed underneath Tearsfall for years. Like, that's been a thing since forever. In fact, I believe that was mentioned all the way back in Warcraft 3. I could be wrong about that, though. But I know it was mentioned at least as a vanilla WoW. And that was just left there to dangle for about a decade, until finally in Legion we actually find out why and how and all the realities of that. Dwarfs in Harbor? What? I have no idea what you're talking about, Zoan. Stop talking crazy. Dwarfs don't have harbors. They have airships. Much better. They can go more places. They're a lot more expensive and a lot less reliable, though. So as you can see, there are actually 2 ships here that sank beneath the waves. Actually, I think there's 3. Yep, I'm wrong. There's 3 ships that actually sank here as a result of the Naga. It's actually kind of a fun little strategy. I can actually show you what the Naga did, literally. So the Naga just swum under, and because they could just function underwater, they did this. They just made this hole right here. Bam! And then the ship starts sinking because there's this massive hole underneath it. It's kind of logical when you think about it. Actually, I don't think this is one of the pirate ships. Yeah, I was wrong. This isn't the pirate ship. Excuse me. That's another ship that sank here separately. Unrelated. There's only 2 pirate ships sinking here. Yeah, I was talking about the Dwarven rebuilding of the dam, which, they really, really, really should do. So who knows? Maybe someday they'll go back to Stromgarde. Probably not, though. I mean, nobody ever played Red in Warcraft 2, right? And nobody cares about Mr. Trollbane. So, you know how I like to write stories in my head. Most of the time I don't actually write them out. A good example of this is actually back in Warcraft 2, as I think I've told you guys, I had this whole mental storyline going. I actually told you about the Horde version, where I was playing an ambitious person who was trying to form his own clan and all that fun stuff. All of that.
But I actually had an alliance storyline that was kind of going concurrent to it as well, and it was actually all about how Stromgarde had realized that they were in a very weak position in every way other than militarily. Had a very strong military and nothing else, and they needed more in order to be able to function. Now, of course, I was a lot younger at the time, so the story was really basic. It was basically about how Stromgarde, who I was playing as, in my head, was pretty much shouldering the vast majority of the burden of the war, specifically so that when the war ended and the Alliance had to settle the remains, Stromgarde could say, have a lot of political line on saying, well, we did all the fighting, so we should get all the rewards, and actually start claiming other Alliance territories. I find that funny, by the way, because there's one thing I actually forgot to mention, a detail in the Stromgarde, the post-war Stromgarde situation. So, as we mentioned, Alterac stopped existing as a nation after Warcraft 2. They still kept going on as the Syndicate, but they were no longer an actual national power, recognized or literally. Well, Stromgarde said, you know what, we did the majority of the fighting in the war. We should be allowed to claim Alterac. That should be our territory now. Oh, I'd totally side with the Cyber Ogres. So yeah, they actually insisted, no, we should get Alterac. We deserve it, after all we did to fight during the war. None of the other nations liked that idea. I'm not sure why Tyrannus didn't like it. Or maybe Tyrannus did like it, and just the nobility of Lorerun didn't like it. I'm not sure. I do know why a couple of the nations didn't like it. You're going to find this one funny as the one joker. It's because they were afraid. They were afraid that if Stromgarde became too strong, that if they actually were able to back themselves with additional holdings and trade routes. Alterac actually does sit on a nexus of trade routes, so it was actually an important place, economically speaking. That they would actually become the new superpower and reform the Arathor Empire, which, by the way, is actually what they were trying to do, in a long-term sense. And then that would be the end of their different kingdoms, and oh god, we would lose our kingdoms. So, I'm not saying I called it or anything, but I called it. Unfortunately, unlike in my story, Stromgarde did not succeed at that task, and instead basically fell apart as a nation, as I mentioned earlier. So maybe they shouldn't have done that, I don't know. Ugh, finally, okay. Thank God I've had things to talk about as I look for gems. Did I ever go get... Oh, crap, I never got writing. Oh, crap. Well, that's okay, we're almost done with our alliance for the moment anyways. Okay, all I see when I see that zone is the human resources exchange. Also, I agree, Tequita. The noble houses of Lorerun. Ah, gotcha, Zone. The noble houses of Lorerun really, really need to be brought to heel. They are responsible for so much garbage that has ruined so much of this setting. I mean, it's recent, but still.
Talk to me.
Nice work out there, Deutsch. Those scum deserve what they got. Well, nothing will ever bring me ship back, or my crew back. Oh, the death of those Naga will give me some solace.
Be good.
Can I help you?
How did the goggles work? Did they function properly? Adjustments can be made if necessary. Oh, I'll need the goblins back. I'm sure Captain Breen will have many uses for them in the future. Ah, superlative, yar. The captain will be most pleased. And wait until word gets back to Fleet Master Seahorn. Yes, Shmesh King. And no, I don't. I have a rough estimate of when I'll be done with the Eastern Kingdoms. After that, it gets a lot more morphic because the zones get bigger, and there's more content to show off. That's not Neve O'Brien waiting. He'll want to see these gems firsthand. After all, that's why we're here. And after a few weeks of consorting with these pirates, the professor and I have realized that the last thing that's good for our health is to be caught hanging onto their treasure.
Off and away.
Okay. Perfect. A dwarf on a raptor. Best mount ever.
Hey there.
Ahoy! Ahoy! Ahoy? Pirate voice, pirate voice. Yar, ahoy, hunter! What brings you to the bridge? You're not on the bridge, buddy.
So the little gnomes proved their worth after all. I knew we'd kept those ankle biters around for a reason, yar. This is bad. It seems the dagger spines are amassing for an attack. Naga are known for their ruthlessness in battle. They'll keep attacking till I am dead. I don't value me own life above that of me crew, but you must help to defend me. The crew will not be able to make it back to Booty Bay without me knowledge of the seas. The Naga be coming from the sea. Let's go.
Good one.
Kill some Naga, yar. Whoops, whoops, whoop, yip, whoop, 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 whoop. By the way, I've been getting everyone the wrong date. It's actually not the 22nd. These will be going live on YouTube. It's the 23rd. So, my bad on that. Of course they have the one. The life of a pirate for me, yar. So this is kind of a dumb quest, because this quest wasn't fixed from vanilla. This is actually a vanilla quest. Basically, whenever you use this thing, it just does a trigger and kills everything within a range over here, and that's kind of it. So, unfortunately, there's no explosion, there's no shot, there's no vehicle thing. They could have done this if they'd revamped it post-cat. You see, I mean, look how pathetic this is. This is a vanilla quest right here, by the way, guys. Great way to show the difference between a vanilla quest and a modern quest. This is terrible. Speaking of the House of Nobility, they'd probably also never have any... They don't exist anymore, obviously. Well, most of them are forsaken. But they would never be like, oh, yes, we'll help with retaking Stromgarde. They'd be like, no, we're interested in ourselves. Because that's what we are. Bastards. Come on. Oh, a sound effect. Holy crap. Guys, we got a sound effect. Yep. Pretty sure they're dead. Most corpses die standing like that. You know what? Here, let's just make this easy. Yay, we did it.
What can I do for you?
We survived the attack, yar. We could not have done it without you. We'll be heading out as soon as the tide rises. If you weren't such a promising hero, I'd offer you a place on me crew, but even I can tell you have bigger fish to fry. Even if you are a puny dwarf.
For the Alliance.
And then I shot him between the eyes, and he died. The end. So... So while the Alliance is desperately trying to, and by the Alliance I mean Stromgarde, is desperately trying to push back against the Syndicate, and maybe retake some of their home, the Horde, the Forsaken, have other plans. Oh, I decided on a new title for my character, by the way. I felt it most appropriate for this character.
What is it?
The harlot, the swine! Kinara still lives, her family health and prosperity while I suffer. Or excuse me, her family healthy and prospering while I suffer. Forsaken indeed. My family is gone, taken by the plague. Our estate is forfeit, looted and plundered during the war. And after all that, she and her lousy children had the audacity to steal the only precious belongings I have left. I don't care anymore about the things they stole. What I want now are their heads. Kill them for me! Go to the Debray farmstead and kill them.
Our time will come.
That sounds like a noble cause to me.
I haven't got all day.
No threat here will go overlooked. If we're to secure these lands under the Dark Lady's rule, we will tear them from everything living, inch by inch, piece by piece. To the northeast, not a stone's throw from the camp, is an ogre mound. The boulder fists that dwell in it must be eradicated.
Beware the living. Speak quickly.
Be prepared, Despire. You will be the first blood upon this land. The Syndicate, as they call themselves, are cowardly humans who betray even their own kind. Their isolation makes them easy prey. Travel north,
Kill all syndicates you find. Claim Northold Manor, and if you find a dwarf there named
Watch your
Deutsch,
back.
try not to kill him, or else you'll create a time paradox. So real quick, this is the Great Wall of Doom. As you can see, it's actually kind of impressive. Gilneas can please. This wall was actually built a really long time ago, during the time of the Troll Wars, for the obvious reason, to kind of help keep the territory here. Now, this is actually interesting. According to everything I've read, this is not actually all the Arathi Highlands. In terms of lore, the Arathi Highlands actually go up to this river right here. So Durnhold, East Point, and Dungarok are actually part of the Arathi area as well. However, politically speaking, that would be cool, Jovan. Politically speaking, back when the Arathor Kingdom made this wall, they kind of created a political boundary divide here, and rather than using the river as the divide. The Forsaken have, well, if you think about it, oh, wrong way, wrong place. The Forsaken have more of a claim, like I said, than the Stromgardians do, the Stromic do. But in all seriousness, though, I've already given my answer to that one. They must be unified! Oh, by the way, this is kind of funny. I know a lot of you have probably been avoiding the Warcraft movie or don't care, but I find something really funny about the fact that everything I've seen about it, I could probably tell you the overall theme of the movie right now, and the theme would be the orcs, well, some orcs and some humans uniting, right, I'm a warlock, against a common enemy, and that's how you get things done. Something about that just amuses me, the idea of even the movie is like, you know, maybe the Horde and Alliance shouldn't, you know, be fighting each other. Maybe we should be together. Just a thought. That whole we can accomplish great things while united theme. And I just realized I'm using the wrong pet. I should switch pets. Go for it, Toby. What do you got? No, they're not retconning anything. It's a different thing. We've been over this. It's a different continuity entirely. It has nothing to do with Warcraft, the setting. It is a retelling of the First War, stylized and idealized in the setting of a film. But I've already given my thoughts on this. You're fine, Toby. We'll give an audio warning. In fact, here's the audio warning. Toby is about to ask spoilery questions. Woo! There you go. Yeah, it's basically an Elsewhere. That's actually a really good way to do it. It's an Elsewhere story. Or Elsewheres. God, I can't even use my own words. Burn! Sorry. After that build-up, I wanted to have some kind of payoff. Anyways, notice I still haven't even bought bags on this character. I don't need to. She's literally doing 3 more zones, counting the one she's in, and then she's done. Death to the cows and to the moving! Move. Shut up. That being said, we do know for a fact they're going to be retconning Warcraft 1 because A, they already have because they had to, because duh, I really don't feel the need to explain that one. And B, B, because when Volume 2 comes out, it will be telling the actual story of what actually happened during Warcraft 1, and that will be the definitive lore for that. Oh! I wonder when Volume 2 is going to come out. Okay, so this is your last spoiler warning, even though if you've looked at chat, you've already been spoilered. Do I think Varian is actually dead? No. Everything I've seen about both Varian and Vol'jin has gone way out of their way to mention how they are missing. They're just missing. Not even a body left behind. So, At the very least, if they're dead, I don't think they're going to stay that way, or I think they're going to be undead, one of the two. In other words, they will continue being a functional character in the story, is the point. Number 2, if he's dead. Do I think it would be interesting for Sylvanas to raise him as a Forsaken? No. However, what I do think would be interesting is for him to become an undead as part of the Four Horsemen. The new Four Horsemen, of course. I wouldn't mind seeing Zool finally. We've heard him talked about for forever, and he was actually a major character despite never ever being on camera in... oh, that's a lie. He was on camera once in Pandaria. So I've been wanting Zool to be more of a character for a long time. And Pandaria just made that worse. It's like, oh, come on! Where is he? You know? When do I get my Felguard? He is on camera exactly once, like I said, when Lorewalker Cho is telling the story of the Zool of the Zandalari. And he is telling about how Zool pled with his people, yada yada. And there is actually Zool, a picture of Zool, basically, up there. A model of Zool, whatever you want to call that. That's probably not what he'll look like in the end, because it was kind of a default Zandalari model, but still. Well, we know for a fact that Greymane is going to break ranks and attack Sylvanas. Why are they removing Soulfire? Actually, you know what? I'm okay with that. I really am. For the reasons I've already mentioned. Can you still see that? Yes. In fact, I'll be showing that off live on the Lorerun when we get there. One of my characters has all of those cutscenes unlocked, and I'll basically just go down the line and show off all of them. And 2 of them you'll see as we do them, if you follow, which you don't, because I'm not explaining myself well. Felguard is at 42. Yeah, I'll never get Felguard. I don't know what pet to use as Demo without using Felguard. It's kind of a weird situation. For a while there, the level 10 ability you got as Demo was the Felguard, and then they made it Metamorphosis instead. But I am okay with them getting rid of Soulfire for one big reason, because they're turning Demo Locks into the pet class, and I like that. I like that idea. I like being the pet class rather than the Metamorphosis class. So as long as they make it up to me, and by making my pet class abilities awesome, I'm down. I'm down with it. No, a Voidwalker is not a demon in lore. This has actually been discussed many times. I have to admit, I'm a little curious why they even allows Voidwalkers to be used at all, because they are not demons. They are demons in gameplay only, and that has been mentioned several times. Most lore for a class? Oh, I don't know. That's actually a really tough question. In no particular order, I'd say that monks, shamans, druids, mages, and warlocks are all kind of piled together on the top of the heap for that one. Honestly, okay, this is going to sound horrible, but Anduin tends to get along with everyone for the most part, but he tends to get along with Horde leaders more than he does Alliance ones, in my experience. He is actually literally personal friends with Bane Bloodhoof, just to make that a thing. So, yeah, I could actually, I'm curious what the other Alliance leaders would think of him, really. Especially since Jaina thinks he's soft. And he is. And the Dwarven Council, who knows what the hell they're up to at this point in time. Tyrande, Tyrande thinks Varian is soft. Mechatork, or not Mechatork, excuse me. No, it is Mechatork. Mechatork doesn't care. And of course, Greymane is death to everything. So yeah, I'm pretty sure if Anduin did take over, he would actually have a really hard time being considered an equal amongst the rest of the Alliance. Fun fact, speaking as a writer, Gul'dan, Flawless, speaking as a writer, I could see them using that as a way to form the neutral nation unintentionally. Like, I've always talked about the idea of the neutral nation, the Army of Light. I've used that idea many, many times. But my idea has always been, you know, people founding it and saying, come, join us, let us fight against our enemies, that kind of a thing. And Anduin working along with someone else, so they have a strong diplomatic leader, Anduin, and a strong military leader, who I've given several examples of who that could be over the time. Sarfang would probably be a good example of that, too. And, of course, Illidan, the other one I've given out there. But anyways... And Anduin gets along with the Pandaren very well, yes. He loves Pandaren stuff. In fact, he's one of the very few people who seems to understand Pandaren culture amongst the non-Pandarans. Anyways, I'm getting off topic. Another way they could do the whole Army of Light creation thing is they could have it so that Anduin takes over Stormwind and then basically loses control of the Alliance as a result. And, because, you know, so much of the Alliance has absolutely no respect for him and doesn't treat any of his orders as serious. And, in fact, I could even see some of his own people working against him and basically ignoring his orders. Ah, he doesn't know what he's doing. You know, Child King, yada, yada, yada. And so those of you who actually choose to join with him actually go with Anduin and effectively end up unintentionally forming the Army of Light as a result of that. Oh, God, flawless. Okay, so alternate dimensions and time travel and stupid. There, that's why Gul'dan's back. It's not actually our Gul'dan. Our Gul'dan is quite dead. Whether he was Gul'dan or Ner'zhul, he is very dead. But, yeah. You know, Darker, I'm actually going to completely disagree with you. Anduin would make a great king. He would make a terrible war leader. However, Anduin has enough of a brain to recognize that he is not a war leader. And so, while he's, you know, in charge or whatever, he would say, okay, you, person who is a good war leader, go actually lead the war. I don't think he would be stupid enough to try and actually command the war effort by himself. And one of Anduin's most defining traits is the fact that he has a brain. Alright, time to rip this woman's head off. Yes, I believe these are former Stromgardians. Just like the woman who sent us to kill them is a former Stromgardian. There we go. I do find it funny that Varian, for all his warmongering, actually earns the respect of the other leaders by not warmongering. And that's recent, too. That Varian has actually earned the respect of the other leaders. Very recent. Like Pandaria recent. Well, they did claim land that doesn't belong to them, Zoan. Okay, no, I can't explain this. See, which, like in reasonable realm, the Forsaken should have shown up and said, "Look, this is our land. In fact, this is literally my land. I used to live here. This is, yeah. So go away." Yeah, so yes, Tyrande. Let's not talk about Tyrande. You'd be surprised how little being dead seems to matter in this settings of one. You know what, I would have actually liked this quest better if it kind of went a little bit differently. So let's say the first quest was, I want you to go and talk to... Yes, I can, Midezilla. Not by much, because I'm not a partner, but I can increase the stream quality. I am not going to, because I am not a partner, and a lot of my viewers do not have the ability to see my show at all, otherwise. So I actually specifically cranked it down. It is actually really low quality on purpose right now. So say the quest went a little bit differently. This, of course, is not true because, I mean, we're being evil. Let's just be honest about it. But we decided, what if we were like, oh God, we must go and see. Oh God, I have found one of my old homes, and it's still there. There's people still there. They're not part of my family anymore. But you know, maybe we could settle there too. Maybe we could live together. And then so you go, and like they send you with. Yes, Javan, that's exactly why. No, there is not flawless. Oh, thank you, Designed. I hope you've been enjoying the voice acting. It's been a little bit of a stretch, but, you know. So instead, like, let's say they go there and it's like, oh, hey, and they send you with a Forsaken, like, one of her friends or whatever, or a servant. Like, hey, we'd like to talk to you about, you know, settling in. This used to be our land, but we're okay with you living here too if we work together. And the humans who are there kill them because, you know, I'm dead, or because they're evil. And then you go back, and then she's like, what? They killed my friend? And then you go back and rip their heads off. That would have been awesome, and that would have been much more appropriate in my field. But, of course, that is not what happened because, you know, evil. So we just got the ability Wild Imps. This is the closest we'll ever be to being a summoner class in current WoW. Well, like I said, we'll actually be much more of a summoner in Legion than this. But yeah, basically, as you can see, I'm literally just spawning imps periodically. In a regular raid situation, speaking from personal experience, I don't know about you know, people who are better than me. I usually have the full max amount of imps out, which I believe is 5 at any given point in time. Just 5 imps, bam, done. Is it 5 cap? Blah, 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 blah. I guess it isn't actually a capped on 5. There's like a mathematic cap. If you're spawning them as fast as you can, you will basically cap yourself out at a certain amount. I can't remember how much it is right now. I have no idea why that would be happening without knowing more about the situation, Midezilla. I mean, it is worth noting that Voidwalkers do not have super aggro-generating abilities. Neither do Hunter Pets, actually, for that matter. They have a taunt. Now, the way taunt works now, this actually didn't used to be true, is it basically sets their aggro, like, let's say you've got 100 aggro, and let's say they've got 5. They cast taunt, their aggro is set to the max aggro, which at the moment is 100, your aggro. And then they continue generating aggro, and it stays as long as that debuff of taunt stays on them, they will stay looking at them. However, since you're probably generating more aggro than you, once they are off of that, they will then look at you. Now, there's a couple other abilities, like Threatening Presence, which will help them to keep up a little bit. So they're generating overall more aggro for their attacks, but Voidwalkers do like no damage. So, Voidwalkers are not quite as effective, in my experience at least nowadays, of off-tanks, pet tanks, as hunter tanks are. So it's possible you were literally just flat out DPSing your Voidwalker's ability to tank. That's speculative, of course, like I said. A shotgun and a flamethrower while tanking? So since nobody's noticed yet, I just thought I'd share. I found a new add-on today. You notice how we've been doing different mounts every time we mount? I know what you're thinking. Well, you've always been doing that. Well, no. I can go and get rid of this now. What I've been doing is using the favorite button. So that only picks a random mount amongst my favorite mounts, which is not all of my mounts. As you can see, there's quite a few extra mounts there that are not my favorites. So I found a macro add-on, which is this one, MNT. And MNT allows me to basically mount any random mount that I have. So I just think that's kind of neat that it's a thing, and I'm going to go ahead and start using that from now on both characters. Or excuse me, all 4 characters. I don't know, Ashur. Really, I don't. What's funny is this is the improved interface. Remember when it was back just items in your inventory? Because I do.
What now?
Use Windows 7 if you can. I would not recommend Windows 10 for anyone. And I mean that sincerely. I was actually talking with a friend of mine, a technician friend of mine, literally just yesterday about that. And we were talking about how Windows 10 is actually not suited for any market. Seriously. But, kill them all! Bring me their heads. You stand before me as a figure of vengeance, and I bow to you in thanks. With that cow's death, and knowing their seed will no longer spread over the face of Azeroth, I could put my energy into something more lucrative. I hope you looted their farmstead after you finished them off.
Trust no one.
So yeah, that was just pure vicious vengeance. Nothing good about that at all, what we just did there. I could, Jengies, or I could have a button which lets me do that instead.
I am forsaken.
Excellent. The march of the Forsaken continues. Our next strike against the ogres will bring you further east to Stromgarde. The living consider these gutted ruins worth clinging to. Their sentimentality is disgusting. All that Stromgarde holds for us is a foul den of more ogres waiting to be struck down. Travel there and slay their shamans and lords, and ensure what passes for leadership amongst the ogres is snuffed out.
Goodbye.
Then you're screwed, Darker. What do you think the next race will be? Well, obviously it'll be Murlocs. I have no idea.
What now?
I will not be swayed by empty claims. Do you have proof of your loyalty? This is just a prelude to the slaughter we will visit on these lands. All will know your name. Well done, Despire. Victory for Sylvanas!
Embrace the shadow.
Let me tell you a story. Once there was a foolish troll named Zengu. He was in vanilla. He was tasked to find the sword of Troll Kalar, legendary blade of the human Trollbane line. He succeeded, and thinking his task done, went to leave Arathi by himself. Then he was cut down by the humans, and the sword was reclaimed. We will not be so foolish. Our apothecaries have given us the perfect guide to reobtain Troll Kalar, the prince who once held it.
Victory for Sylvanas.
There is no doubt in my mind that a powerful warlock resides within the walls of Stromgarde. From time to time, using an arcane magical relic, this warlock has summoned forth terrible demons in large numbers. We must remove the source of their energy. Find the warlock, kill her, bring me whatever magical artifact you find, and I will take steps to destroy it, and see that its power is not used to taint the land any longer.
Beware, our enemies abound.
Hey, who? Hey, look! Galen Trollbrain, Prince of Stromgarde. Same armor, too. From vanilla. Boop, boop, boop. So, Javan, that's pulling it tactically, and you know it. About the earlier comment. What do I think? Do I think we might see some playable races that aren't mentioned in lore yet? I hope not. At this point, there are so many races in this setting. Adding more, and on Azeroth at least I should say, is probably a mistake. Adding more in other worlds, that I'm totally okay with. And in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they do start adding additional races for the additional worlds we'll be encountering in the future. In fact, I hate to point this out, but even in Legion, we are seeing new races we have not seen before. And if they ever actually finally add that South Seas expansion and add the Undermine and whatnot, we will probably also be seeing new races there as well. Making those playable, though, there are simply too many existing races which are good candidates for playable races. So I'm not sure I could support that. Not that I minded playing a Pandaren. How much is a gold token on US? Give me a moment. 40,736 gold on the US right now. Would you recommend someone to buy WoW? Yes, I would. You actually only have to buy one expansion. If you buy WoW, you get everything up to and including Pandaria. Then you have to buy Warlords separate. It's $20 for WoW, $20 for Warlords. What I would recommend you do is you download the free trial of WoW, which allows you to play to level 20, and see if you like the game. If you're going to do that, probably play a Hunter. I hate to say that, but it really is the best class to start if you've never played this game before. So that would be my recommendation on that front.
Hello.
FF7 is awesome even to this day, despite its flaws. Yes, I was once prince of the fallen kingdom of Stromgarde. I was cut down by the one seeking Troll Kalar. I rue my foolish life now. I serve only Sylvanas. In ancient times, Lord Igneous of Strom, named Trollbane, led the first human civilization of Arathar in war against the Trolls. His blade was Troll Kalar, Trollslayer in their ancient tongue. I was one of the last of his line, sworn with guarding Troll Kalar, a duty in which I failed, but now we will obtain it once more for my new master. The sword is bound by 3 sigils. The first is held by the syndicate traitors that lurk in the ruins of Stromgarde. Slay them and return that sigil to me. And then we will have the Trollbane line returned. I don't see why this is a problem. Don't you want the Trollbane line to continue? Well, here's a mount I almost never use. The Crane. I don't even remember where I got this from. I mean, I know it's in Pandaria. There is one living Trollbane that still exists. Danoth. Or Daneth. I have no idea how to pronounce his name. It's 2 A's. A's just screw me over. So, Daneth, Danoth, Danuth, Donathinanuth, and Galen are the last 2 Trollbanes. Now, I will say I like Daneth. Daneth? God, I have no idea. I like D-Dude. And, and he's, crap. I hate it when this happens. And I want to see him do more stuff. Absolutely, he's a cool character, and I like him. But I also have to admit, pragmatically speaking, D-Dude is far better of a choice for to become the person who restores Stromgarde, because he's alive and can have children and can continue the Trollbane line. I'm telling you, it's Danathina Dude. That's his real name. Right, Warlock, not the other guy. What mount was it, Chengiz? I wasn't even looking. Seriously, I was not even looking. Let's go ahead and switch to the Imp for this. Weird. I have no answers for Zawan's earlier question. I have no idea why we're summoning a void creature as a warlock. That really does not actually make a particularly large amount of sense to me. Really. Oh, that was one of the cranes. I don't know which crane, but it was one of them. Crane. Probably this one, I think. The Golden Riding Claim, which is apparently an exalted Golden Lotus thing. The crane is a symbol of wisdom and nobility. Their ability to carry us into the skies is nothing short of miraculous. That's true, Schmidolf. As long as he doesn't die. Go, my imps! Yes! Purple bar under my HP and mana. Ah! That is my current amount of demonic power I am channeling. It actually has a visual effect, too. The higher it goes up, the more I am literally coursing with demonic power. In fact, there you go. You see, now I'm actually a little more. I've got the purple energy on my hands and feet, and I've got the horns coming out of my head. If I do it even more, I'll literally be glowing with demonic energy. Just... I use that to use my metamorphosis abilities. But because I am a sap and I like to roleplay, I actually have only been burning my metamorphosis on significant fights because it's the kind of thing that I probably wouldn't use all that often in lore, because I'm basically risking my eternal soul every time I do it. Because of the whole, you know, becoming temporarily fel-infused thing. There's the sigil. There are many achievements I don't have, unfortunately. Most of the PvP ones, as you can see, which I don't think I need to explain. I also am missing quite a few profession ones. Almost all of these are fishing. Are the ones... Fishing and archaeology, excuse me. Fishing and archaeology are the professions I'm missing. I'm still missing a few pet battles because of just grind. And almost everything I'm missing garrison-wise is the invasion stuff, because I don't have anyone to do it with. And all of the dungeon and raid stuff. Basically, the more modern the raid, the less likely I have the achievement, because I don't have a raid group anymore, so I can't actually do that. Are there negative detriments in gameplay? No. In fact, I can do it right now. If I remember the button. I found it too. There it is. So I can be like, you know what? Die! Death! Death! Okay, so while you're in metamorphosis form, you get a few buffs. Actually, yeah, you increase your armor by quite a bit, so it makes it much easier for you to tank stuff. Also, all of your spells change. Corruption turns into Doom, which basically does a very large amount of damage over a minute. It's a minute-long dot. See you around, Della Savage. Shadow Bolt turns into Touch of Chaos, which is very quick and extends corruption. Chaos Meteor turns into Chaos Wave. That's an Alliance character. Etc., etc. And, of course, Immolation Aura just turns into that, so you don't have to channel it anymore. So you can be doing Immolation Aura while doing other stuff. In short, basically all your abilities, especially if you use them properly in conjunction with your other abilities, become much, much stronger. Well, thank you, Taitro. Appreciate it. Hopefully, it will continue to be enjoyable in the future. I'm glad, because I have a lot to talk about in Arathi. Some of my sections of this lore run have been kind of empty, and I admit that. Actually, if you do Metamorphosis right, you'll already have Corruption up, and then you'll pop Doom on him, so he'll have two dots connecting, and then you will go ahead... yes, you can, Dakota. And then you can go ahead and use that, I forget what it's called, Touch of Chaos or whatever, to extend Corruption. So Corruption and Doom are just staying on the target, while you also have an Immolation Aura up. Yeah, in short, it is a very powerful cooldown. But the thing is, unlike most cooldowns, which just use the 2, 3, 5, 10 method, which I'll talk about if you want me to, it's a cooldown that you control. I could blow Metamorphosis at any time. I could blow it right now. Bam! Even though I just used it, because I have energy. Now, you'll notice, though, the energy slowly drains while I'm using it. But to demonstrate what I mentioned earlier, can I cancel it earlier and save my energy? Yes, I can. This is the only reason I'm on board with Zawan's idea here. In other words, I'm actually really upset that they're getting rid of this as a mechanic, because it is a fascinating mechanic. It basically gives the player total control over how the class plays. There's actually a term for that, and I forget what it is. I think it's like perfect control or something like that is the gameplay style of what that's called. Forgive me if I'm using the wrong term. The idea is there's no RNG here, is what I'm trying to say. All of your abilities generate a static amount of demonic fury. Period. Just period. That's how that works. So you always have control over what kind of demonic energy you're generating, and you always have control over how much you're using, and you can switch back and forth between forms at will. Yeah, it's if limit breaks worked like this in the Final Fantasy series, that would be fantastic. the ability to just burn energy. Now, it does go away fairly quickly. That's the cost of it. But while it is up, you are basically better in every way. And again, if you use it properly, you will be destroying things. And then when it runs out, all of those dots are still going. Remember, Doom doesn't go away just because you're out of Metamorphosis. So it'll still be there for like the next minute or whatever. In fact, one of the common things I would do back when I was actually raiding as a demo lock was I would make sure that as my Metamorphosis is about to run dry, pop one last Doom on the target, so that as I'm generating my Metamorphosis power back up, my demonic power back up, Doom will simply keep ticking down for the next minute, because it's a minute dot. But before I talk about gameplay, I got a question here I want to answer. Do I know how they will change the lore of demonology in Legion? I do. I'm pretty sure the way this is working is, up until now, demonology has always been about controlling and becoming demons. They've decided to basically remove the becoming, and so demonology in lore is going to become all about mastery and control over demons in lore. To use an example of this, the gentleman we actually fight at the end of the Green Fire line was a demo warlock, and the way we fight him is because he has become part demon. He has basically blown Metamorphosis in a big way and become very powerful as a result of that. But instead of having those 2 specs, it'll just have the 1. Can you regen the bar before it runs out? No. Nothing you do will actually... That's a lie. Very few things you do will generate Demonic Fury while you're in Metamorphosis. I believe, actually, there's only 2 examples of that without going into talents. I believe there's a couple of talents that help generate Demonic Fury. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. But I do know that, for example, if I've already got Wild Imps out while I'm in Demonic Fury form, those Wild Imps will continue to generate Demonic Fury for me. If Corruption is up, that will continue to generate Demonic Fury. And I think that's actually it. I'm not sure if there's anything else other than site-specific stuff. But that'll be generating a very minuscule amount of Demonic Fury. Basically, it'll just slow down the rate of decay. That's up to you, Midezilla. That's totally up to you. What's something that sounds interesting to you? That's usually how I approach that question. What sounds interesting to you? So before I talk a little bit more about the gameplay mechanics of that, I want to talk to this guy. Hey, what's up?
What now?
Only the Syndicate agents in Stromgarde will have the sigil. Spilling blood outside the fortress's wall is a waste of your time. I hated the Syndicate in life as much as I do in death. To see the sigil again is a small comfort, but we have much more work to do, for Sylvanas. In life, I divided the sigil of Thoradin into 5 pieces to protect it, spreading it amongst my most loyal men. This too failed, but my successor will have done the same. The defenders of Stromgarde hold the pieces of the sigil. Slay them. Bring the shards to me. I will reassemble them.
Remember, patience, discipline.
I am forsaken.
Cleared up properly? Good. I doubt we'll even bother to lurk in Stromgarde. That ramshackle hole needs to be razed to the dust. The land would make a decent spot for a new Undercity, though.
Watch your back.
I'm sure Zawan would love that. The burning in my blood grows by day. The Warlock must be stopped. My restless nights will turn to peaceful slumber when I have destroyed this orb. Thank you, Despire. It is a chilling reminder of the terrible power the demons held over the orcs, before Hellscream released them from the curse.
Beware, our enemies
Ding.
abound.
Hey, let's get a picture with our good friend, Mr. Happy here. Hey, buddy. Arcane Mages actually had a talent for a while, or an ability for a while. That was basically the closer they were to max mana, the more damage they did. That didn't work out too well for a lot of reasons.
I haven't got all day.
Kalar leads the ogres here. He's evaded slaughter for years. His very presence is an affront to the Dark Lady. Mugthal, traitor to the Forsaken, commands him from afar. We do not suffer ogres or traitors on Forsaken land. Bring me his head, and I will make sure it's burned this time.
Trust no one.
I don't even remember Psychotic. I haven't been Arcane since Wrath. So, quick explanation. Mugthal was actually the ogre and his tribe that Sylvanas took over. Oh god, that hurts. back in Frozen Throne. Remember, she took a group of bandits. It was a group of bandits. It was the ogres, and then she used those to go after Varamothras' base. I feel like there was a third group she took over too. Either way, so Mugthal was actually the ogre and the leader of that group that had sworn fealty to Sylvanas. Of course, because mind control doesn't work forever, he eventually rebelled. In vanilla, he had rebelled in Alterac, and then came, obviously survived the attacks against him, came back, and ended up ruling over the ogres, the Boulderfist tribe, who, as I mentioned, are the second strongest ogre tribe that isn't affiliated with anyone everywhere, and is trying to push them to claim more territory. So naturally, we're going to go kill the crap out of them because he betrayed us. I mean, that's just obvious, right? Death to the Stromgardians! Death for Sylvanas! Oh, God dang it. Well, now the mood's just ruined. That guy is part of a guild called Whack-A-Gnome. I just felt like sharing that. People who can interrupt are such a bane to warlocks and druids, actually. Because of the whole slow cast time. Wow, that was quick. Alright, we're done killing Stromgardians. Excuse me, Stromic. I had something else to talk about gameplay-wise about this mechanic. I can't remember what it is now. Okay, so the way they math out this for it to actually be balanced is actually kind of neat. Basically, on average, a Demo Warlock will actually be doing less damage than other Warlocks would be doing, or other classes, range classes in general would be doing. And you're like, well, how does that even itself? Well, there's actually two ways to even this out. This is actually kind of neat. You see this ability I'm using right here, that proc? So that proc has a chance to happen anytime I hit an enemy, and a guarantee to happen when they're low on health. It's basically the Warlock version of Execute. The damage you do spamming Soulfire is considerable. So, oh yeah, I was going to talk about the 2-3-5 thing. Thank you for reminding me. So the Soulfire mechanic is one way for Warlocks to be doing decent damage. Also, Zandalari mounts for the win. But it's still, that basically just evens them out with other classes. But the Metamorphosis ability, when you're rolling that properly and when you're in Metamorphosis form, you're actually doing more damage than most other classes do. In other words, they've effectively turned Warlocks into a burst class, but unlike every other class, it is solely dependent on when you burst. It's not a cooldown, like I said. There's no, in 12 seconds I can burst. There's no, in 2 minutes I can burst. It's anytime I have the resources necessary. You can see how fast it drains when you're out of combat. Anytime I have the resources necessary, I can burn those resources to burst. And I like that. I like giving the player that total control over exactly what your output is and when. Woo, Dark Souls 3. Is that coming out already? Jeez, I must have missed that. So, giving the player that total control is, honestly, I'd say this is probably one of the better designed specs in the entire game, right up there with several of the Monk specs and a few Death Knight specs, because of that feature, because of how it gives everything to the player. That does make Demo Warlocks very skill-based, but it also does accomplish something very, very well. It means... got it. Don't care then, John. It does mean that the Demo Warlock is a perfect example of easy to learn, hard to master. Because it's really actually relatively easy to play a Demo Warlock. You cast your one dot, and you cast your one spell, or actually, excuse me, 2 spells, and then you have a couple of cooldowns, which you use on proc or whenever you need them, for example. That's kind of it. And that's relatively easy to learn, but actually weaving through the mechanic and using it ideally in the right times, in the right ways, with the proper stacking of abilities and debuffs, will enable you to really, really squeeze out performance out of a Demo Warlock. And as Psychotic points out, Demo Warlocks are fantastic in pushing through moments when the healers are running low, or when you need to force a phase change, or when you really need to push through ads very quickly, for example, is another example. Anytime you really need to just have a massive output of damage, Warlocks are perfect. Demo Warlocks are perfect for that, because they can control when that happens. An Enhancement Shaman, for example, is a huge burst declassed, and so is a Retribution Paladin, but neither of them have control of that burst. It's basically, if you're doing everything on both classes all the time, your damage will do this. You'll do a bunch of damage, and then you'll do a little damage. Then you do a bunch of damage, and then you do a little damage. And then you can blow cooldowns to do a lot of damage during a peak, or a little damage during a trough, right? And that's the only control you have over their burst. A Demo Warlock is more like this amount of damage normally. And when you blow Metamorphosis, you go up to here. And so, again, control over the situation, like I mentioned earlier. Now, the 2-5, it's 2-5-10 is really what it is. The common mentality has actually changed over time. It used to be 2-5-10-30. Nowadays, the whole thing has shifted towards the quicker stuff, and I agree with that mentality, by the way. It makes it more action-oriented. It makes it goes by quicker and smoother. The idea is this. There are several different types of cooldowns. 2-minute cooldowns. There's actually 3-minute cooldowns as well, but I'm not counting those. 2-minute cooldowns, 5-minute cooldowns, 10-minute cooldowns. Although there's also actually 1-minute cooldowns as well, but those barely count for this concept. The idea is most classes have staggered cooldowns so that you can use cooldown A, which is a 1 or a 2-minute cooldown, regularly. In fact, you can usually use that more than once per fight. Or you can use it at least once per fight. A 5-minute cooldown, you generally want to save that for a boss. A 10-minute cooldown, you save for when you really need it. That's the normal approach to cooldowns nowadays. Now, again, they've shifted that down a bit. So a lot of things that used to be 5s or 10s or 30s, or 20s, like Lay of Hands, has been shifted down quite a bit. In fact, I believe Lay of Hands is a 5 now, if I'm not mistaken. I could be, I'm not sure. But that overall approach was designed to make it so you can use more of your abilities per encounter, rather than being limited to, in some cases, and this is a good reason why they did this, just sitting there and waiting for cooldown. This used to be a big problem, actually. In a raid guild, it'd be like, alright, well, we got 5 minutes left on Bloodlust. You know, and they just got to sit around and wait until it comes up, because they don't have the gear or they don't have the skill to actually down this boss without Bloodlust to push through a phase change or whatever. It is also worth noting that Bloodlust used to be a 10-minute cooldown. Now, I know what you're saying. Wasn't it now? Well, no. It's actually more like a 6-minute cooldown now because of the debuff. Or at least I think it's 6 minutes. I know it's less. And if you die, the debuff goes away. So then you could do it again. That was a good change. But anyways, so that's the cooldown concept in a nutshell. And yeah, Bloodlust did used to be absolutely mandatory, especially on certain bosses where you just needed that damage now for whatever reason. So I really, really like the Demonology design. Having a resource bar instead of cooldowns, that's awesome. I really, really like that. There are still a couple of cooldowns they can get, I think. I'm not actually even 100% sure of that. I'm actually checking here. I think these are 5. Hang on just a second. Here we go. Okay, so they do still have a 10-minute cooldown. Summon Infernal, which you'll never use, and Summon Doomguard. Now, this is the other thing, which is crazy. So you notice this is a 10-minute cooldown. As you might imagine, anything that is a 10-minute cooldown has got to be really big, and it is. You get a Doomguard for a full minute, and that Doomguard is in addition to your current pet and does a lot of damage. So, remember how I mentioned how a Demo Warlock has control of their DPS output? Imagine if you've gone to Metamorphosis, are blowing everything, has everything put properly, and then you blow your Doomguard. That puts Demo way up here in terms of damage output in a short period of time. Just BAM! So, yeah, I like that. I don't know what else to say that. I like giving control of the output to the player. I think that's good game design.
What is it?
Speak quickly. This is the fate, she held up the ogre head. This is the fate of all who would stand in our way.
Our time will come.
It's funny because I gush about this mechanic because so few things use this kind of idea. I'm really hoping some form of this mechanic carries forward into Legion. Like, really. I like being a full pet cast, but they should use this somewhere.
What is it?
All 5 pieces are needed to restore the sigil. Yeah, no kidding, right, Dakota? Thoradin was the founder of Arathor. Just as I joined these fragments together, he joined the first scattered tribes of humans into their first great nation. Oh, but I'm sorry. I'm sure you're not interested in such drivel. Forgive me. Old memories are often hard to bury. I entrusted the sigil of Arathor to my lieutenant, Valorcall, leader of my cavalry. He barely escaped with his life when it was taken. It's unlikely he will do so again. Valorcall patrols the road between Stromgarde Keep and Refuge Point. Find him! Take the sigil for him once more. He was one of my best, most loyal lieutenants. Oh well.
Dark Lady, watch over you.
How could you... I'm curious what they're going to do instead of Holy Power. Although, in fairness, Holy Power as a mechanic isn't a huge thing. Because Holy Power is basically just a generate spend, which is a very, very basic form of resource mechanic. In other words, some of your abilities generate the resource, some of your abilities spend the resource. Now, that is a very basic mechanic, which is why I kind of speak derogatorily about it. But I will also say from a gameplay design perspective, it is a very good mechanic. Because once again, it puts things into the control of the player. It allows you to decide when you use what. For example, sometimes you want to blow everything immediately. Sometimes you want to hold on to that resource just for a little bit because there's, maybe there's something coming up or maybe there's going to add that's popping. You want to save it for that, Once again, as ever, I'm always in favor of more control over your combat style being given to the player. So I'm not sure if I like Holy Power being removed. They're using cooldowns. Well, okay, cooldown-based gameplay is actually a thing that I don't think we've actually seen in WoW proper. Not really. Probably the best example I could come up with cooldown-based gameplay is actually in Diablo 3. Crusaders, specifically. Now, I know, there's lots of different builds, but one of the biggest builds I've seen lately is the big Thorns barrel damage build. I don't know what it's actually called. And that build is literally solely dependent on cooldowns. It's just rotating cooldowns properly and staggering them properly and doing everything you can to try and reduce the time left on your cooldowns. So, I get cooldown style gameplay, and it's funny that Paladins are getting cooldown style gameplay since I just mentioned Crusaders have that too. But anyways, I don't know. I need to get into the beta and start playing those classes so I can actually get my own personal thoughts on the matter and see what I think of all of them. For those of you who don't know what I mean by cooldown-based gameplay, what I mean is no resource, just cooldowns. Imagine if I had no Mana Bar and no Demonic Fury, but like Shadow Bolt had, let's say, a 2-second cooldown, very quick. That's my filler spell. But Corruption had more like a 5-second cooldown, and Hand of Gul'dan, actually this is true, it does have a 15-second cooldown, and so forth and so on. So in other words, I don't spend any resource to accomplish things, I just have to make sure that I am timing my cooldowns properly so I always have something to do, or I can blow everything all at once in order to try and push through something to generate burst. So again, it's not like cooldown-style gameplay is bad, it's just a different direction for them to take for a class that I feel was already working. Also, apparently they're doing some big changes to Druid, which I only know because people won't stop complaining about them. I don't even know what the changes are, I've just heard complaints about them.
I am forsaken.
Have you the sigil? Valorcall was loyal to me in life. His death will not be something I bear lightly, but bear it I must. I am forsaken. My old existence means nothing. The sigil is ours. Trollcar awaits. The last sigil is mine, and with it the four combine to the sigil of Trollbane, key to the tomb. We are ready. Trollcar lies sealed with its master's remains inside Trollbane's tomb in the catacombs of Stromgarde. It will be defended heavily, but my presence before you is proof enough the defenders can be overcome. Enter the tomb, retrieve Trollcalar, and bring it here.
Victory for Sylvanas.
So some people interpret this gentleman as being mind-controlled by Sylvanas. Like there's a banshee who's just keeping control of him kind of a thing. I don't actually get that sense from him, though. I get this sense of just bitterness and just... Like, at the end of several of his quests, he was like, we must do this thing, ... for Sylvanas. Like, just... we must go and accomplish this act for Sylvanas, you know. It is also possible, of course, he's got his own plans going on, since, you know, he might actually be pretending loyalty to Sylvanas when he doesn't actually have that loyalty to her. That's another possibility. But either way, I don't perceive him as the, you know, mind-controlled slave. Raptor. I've heard that rumor too, Roaring, but I have no idea what to make of it. Half-Life would actually make a good movie, in my opinion. If they did it right, it would be pretty careful. Doing a movie based on Portal, that's a lot trickier. I'm not sure what I think of that. That would have to be highly interpretive. And it would have to not follow the game, and that would cause issues. Oh yeah, by the way, as in a quick aside, these used to be elites. Pretty much this whole city used to be elites. This is actually referred to in gameplay as a micro-dungeon, aka a mini-instance. The idea being that there were lots of chunks of the game which were actually just filled with elites. And I mentioned this as well because Stromgarde... Arathi doesn't actually have any instances in it, and no raids, no nothing like that. But this place, for me at least, was always a lot harder to go through back in vanilla than most actual dungeons were. This place was actually pretty rough. Of course, now nothing here is elite. There are very, very few elites that survived the purge of the elites. What I cast as the G-Man? Hang on. I need to look up his name. Give me a moment. No, I do not, Jason Torby. I think Michael Shapiro could actually manage it. It would just take some makeup and whatnot, but I think they could make that happen. I think they could do that. And I think that'd be awesome. Well, don't forget, Takoida, that the druids, perhaps ironically, can directly do offensive magic thanks to their druidic power, both of the arcane and of the natural variety. That's pretty much what boomkins are in a nutshell. Forcing the power of nature into direct offensive power. At several points in history, boomkins have actually been the highest DPSers in the game, but the real catch is, in most of those cases, it required a very specific setup to do. Like in Wrath, for example, a boomkin that was geared to the tilt would out DPS most other specs, but it was that gear requirement that made that happen. And even then, it required that staff, too, which summoned the Valkyr while you fight. I'm doing it for Lorerun purposes, Chavin, sorry. No, you don't have to do what I'm doing. There are a few spots where they haven't fixed quest design, so where you have to do kind of what I'm doing here. Most of those are like, for example, Silithus, or Dustwalla Marsh, or the Blood Elf and Draenei starter zones, or a decent chunk of Outland, but everything else is usually better designed.
Listening.
Do you have Trollkalar? Ah, my father's blade. Seems like it's been an eternity since I last saw it. The tale of Trollkalar ends here, then. It will be a weapon to bring death to the living in the name of the Dark Lady. Leave me now. My job is once again to guard the blade. Tell Alina of your victory. I'm sure she'll have a reward for you.
Beware the living.
Farewell, Fruit Juice. 23rd.
Speak quickly.
The news of your victory satisfies me, a rare sensation. The Dark Lady herself has mused that our conquest of Lorerun may be the only way the Forsaken can find true satisfaction and perhaps even relief. But it matters not. Our victory is inevitable. For your loyal service to the Forsaken, I award you in the name of Sylvanas. You've served us well here, Despire. Now that we've made our mark, the next phase of our conquest will occur over months rather than minutes. There's much work yet to be done, and I will spare you the tedium of waiting for fortifications to trickle in. Travel to east to Hammerfall. The Orcs will no doubt have use of your aid.
Victory for Sylvanas!
Arathi Highlands, Scyther. So this is funny. This is to go after the pirates, like I just did. We're not going to do this quest because we already did an alliance. It's the exact same quest. But Gorgut gets sent scouting. Look at many things. Big adventure. Gorgut found secret pirate ship. Pirates all scared. Run away. But Ogre Lolo not run. Lolo make friends with Gorgut. Gorgut have to leave, but miss Lolo. You go say hello to Lolo for Gorgut. That just amuses me. Flight path. There it is.
And you are...
Well, it makes
Dark
sense,
Lady,
really,
watch
Sylvan,
over
if you
you.
think about it. How about a rogue? No, I think just Galen himself. Just Galen himself, because I can't see many Stromgarde. Well, maybe, I don't know. Either Galen himself or Galen and several Stromgardian, Forsaken. This is a big mount. Basically shifting over and working with Daneth to reclaim Stromgarde, that kind of a thing. God, roaring. I'm not even going to speculate. Not even going to speculate. The only thing I find interesting about the new diagram, other than what we've already discussed, is the fact that Undeath is its complete own energy type. And I still disagree with the whole vengeance against the living garbage. Unless they're talking about Type 2 Undead, but even that is wrong. There are plenty of Type 2 Undead who are perfectly peaceful and willing to interact with people. We actually did a quest with one back in Duskwood. A woman who was there, who was the blind lady. Blind Mary, that was it. This is going to be a little bit of a trip. It feels like it's going slower than it is. This is what I call the Tauren effect. This is also the gnome effect. You play on a Tauren for a while, you feel like you're crawling. Just like... And then you get on a gnome, and it's like... Zoom! Because... And again, mathematically speaking, you're going the same speed. But because of the animations and the size, it's like, oh, I'm slogging my way over here. I would be okay with CD Projekt Red taking over Mass Effect. I would be okay with that. But no, they're doing another thing. Whose name I suddenly can't think of. Cyberpunk. That's what they're doing right now. Whatever. Which one are you talking about, someone? Remind me real quick. Quick, before I get there. I'm almost to Hammerfall, dude. You gotta tell me. No. Oh, we might not even... No, I take that back. We'll probably hit 40 on this character. 3 zones, that's enough for 7 levels. Especially fully heirloomed out. What are you telling me, book? What? I should go to the Hinterlands. And the Scarlet Monastery. And do professions. As I say, MTG hasn't adhered to that for forever. Oh yeah, the Life and Death, Light and Void thing. What, Rory? I mean, it makes sense. Oh my god, the Lorerun. I could tell you about the trolls there. There's actually 3 different troll factions, believe it or not, in Hinterlands. I don't want to talk about that yet, though, because we're not there yet. The thing that's weird about that dichotomy, Zawan, is it doesn't...
Why is there an Alliance character just here? What are you doing, dude? I mean, I'm not going to attack you, because that's not what I do. But what are you doing? Seriously. I can't even res you, dude. Oh, whatever. Hey, samurai. The thing I find most interesting about that dichotomy we came up with, Zawan, is it feels like that they're going for the Quadraxis thing, but the more I think about it, the more I think that Fel and Arcane are only opposed because they come from the same source. Now that's a little bit implied in the book, if you remember the way I was reading it. Lord knows I've done that too, Jason Torby. It wasn't that low level. In fact, he was higher level than me. He was level 39. But, you know. Oh, lots of wine, Roaring. Lots of wine. I'll have my glass ready. Miserable little pile of secrets! No, because we know that what the Twisting Nether is the edges of creation that have untold arcane energy that was twisted, right? So arcane energy that was twisted is Fel energy, which kind of makes a degree of sense, actually. Which makes me wonder if there's that kind of a similarity between the other powers. And that, again, does make a degree of sense. Natural power being opposed by undeath. Life being twisted into undeath. Not death. It's not the powers of death, it's the powers of undeath. Which I guess is actually part of the power of death, so I guess I'm reading too much into that, but the point remains. And then the void probably being a twist of light, that kind of a thing. We do also know that the Naru were around before the Void Lords, which also kind of lends credence to that idea. Or it could be because they're actually opposed to each other and annihilate each other like Dakota says. I don't actually know. Unfortunately, despite finally giving us a cosmology, they didn't answer all the questions. Anyways, let's do some questions. Our people were held as prisoners, as slaves, in this very camp by the humans. This was another of the internment camps. I was locked in these cages. I saw my brothers held in these stocks, hung in these gallows. I saw Orgrim Doomhammer, leader of us all, stabbed in the back. His blood stained the black earth we stand on. And look at us now. This is our legacy hammer, Hammerfall, where we lost everything and took it back with our own hands for the Horde! Oh, by the way, I lowered the volume on my mic to try and help out a little bit. I hope that helps. I don't want to lower it too much lower, but maybe it'll help. I don't know. Stromgarde, Warlock. If your deeds for the undead are as great as you claim, I am honored to help you serve the Horde.
Go with
Our race's gift of shamanism stirred me from a years-long lethargy. Now I provide for all here, crafting the same boons that gave me strength. The Highland raptors are cunning and fierce beasts. Their spirits can grant our warriors great strength. Bring me raptor eyes, so I may use amulets, as Torben taught me.
Dabu.
For the Horde. For the Horde. I should just find a voice clip of when there's like 50 people saying for the Horde. And you know, be like, wah, for the... basically, yes, Schmeidolf. Like I said, the Naru were first, but the Naru and the Light basically generated the Void and the Void Lords. It does make me wonder if the Naru and the Void Lords are connected. I hope not, but we'll see.
Makra.
Ancient stones are strewn across this land. The elements flock to them, surrounding them protectively. These are sites of great power, and the largest is just west of Hammerfall. Not a soul trespasses, but if you go there alone, you can hear the whispers from the earth itself. I have not visited there in a long time, but our grunts have told me the whispers have started again. Would you look for me? Would you see if the stone still speaks?
For the Horde.
Roaring, this is going to sound dumb, but I don't know what that is. So, what is that? Wog. I've done Wog at full volume. I have a huge volume cap. I try not to do it. People next door will not just hear me. People over across the street will hear me, and that's not an exaggeration. I am very loud when I actually let myself be.
Blood and thunder.
Apparently it's a new South Park game. Who made it, though?
Because the only reason I was on board with the last one was obsidian. The Witherbark trolls and the Boulderfist ogres of Arathi are working together to rid us from this land, as I mentioned earlier. We will not meet our fates at their or anyone else's hand. We will slay them and show them that we too have a home here. The trolls turned their back on us. The ogres would use us for food and bedding if we allowed them to. These things shall not be. Also, that's kind of gross. We will start our attack on the Witherbark to the south of here, slay them in droves, return only when their camp runs thick with blood.
Go forth to victory.
Not all trolls. Yeah.
Strength.
We're not reading that quest yet. We'll do that quest last, actually.
Arrgh.
What the? Ubisoft, screw that. I mean, has Ubisoft ever made a good game? I'm kidding, of course. Actually, Ubisoft has made several good games. And then they ruined them. So, while we're doing this, who wants to talk about how incredibly stupid people are? I mean, I've already kind of talked about the Witherbark as much as I want to. When did that movie come out, anyways? I haven't been keeping track of the Warcraft movie, because I'm not even sure. Yeah. Seriously, though, I've got a serious, stupid thing to talk about. June. Okay, thank you. So... how many people here understand what the word optional means? Hey, Great Bodic Bend. Corona wasn't green. No, it's not that. Although that was kind of weird, but whatever. But no. So, like I said, there's this word. It's called the word optional. I'm pretty sure most of the people in my chat right now have a good line on claiming what an understanding of what the word optional means. You no, this is kind of this isn't really a trick question. This is fairly simple. In other words, optional is the idea of you don't have to do it. Now, I mention that because, as funny as this sounds, the word optional is actually debated. Let me use an example before I go further. Let's say that you're playing World of Warcraft. Let's say that you're doing a quest chain that goes through the Let's say you're doing a quest chain that requires you to gather items that drop off of a raid boss. Okay, now that sounds. Let's say that those drop off of any given raid boss. In other words, if you do LFR version and kill 3 bosses, when you do that on normal, those 3 bosses don't drop it for you, okay? That would be optional. You can optionally go do LFR to go through that quest, or if you actually have a raid group at your back, you could do it on normal, or heroic or mythic or whatever. You with me? So we're still in optional. Now let us say that they go ahead and make it so that it drops off of all of them separately. So if you clear LFR and get, say, 6 items, and then do normal, you can also get 6 items. Now this is where the gray area of optional actually comes in, aka not functionally optional. Literally optional by the technical definition of the word, but functionally at that point you are significantly encouraged to go in a specific direction. This is also the 1% idea. In other words, in order to do the best possible DPS with a given spec, this isn't really true nowadays, but back in the day, yeah, you had the option of being whatever spec you wanted, but if you wanted to do the best damage, you had to be spec B. If you wanted to be the best at this boss, you had to be spec A. You know, it was required because it was the best. People had mathed it out, and this was the best one, right? So this is when the concept of optional gets into the gray area, and I will admit it is a very gray topic. Now, that actually, believe it or not, has nothing to do with what I was going to talk about, because that's actually a whole separate discussion in its own right. Although we could talk about that too, but let me get back to my original intended topic. So what I'm talking about is pure optional. Pure optional is a lot easier to describe. I can give it to you right now. In Elder Scrolls, any Elder Scrolls from, like, Oblivion up, I think. So I guess that's only 2, isn't it? There's a difficulty meter, right? And you can play with that difficulty scaled to whatever. That is pure optional. There's nothing encouraging or discouraging you from shifting that in any given direction. You with me? I usually use the term pure optional to distinguish this because, as I mentioned, the word optional can mean a fairly gray amount of things, and I want to make it absolutely clear what truly optional means. There is nothing forcing you, or requiring you, or allowing you to change that, and that difficulty slider doesn't really change the content of the game from the developer's perspective. They're not making the game differently because of the fact that there's the difficulty slider. They're just making the game, and you adjust the difficulty slider. You with me so far? Now, when I said stupid people, one of the things I've heard many, many times, and this just makes me roll my eyes, is the idea of some people being really, really upset because an optional aspect of a game exists. Now, I actually heard about this last week, but I didn't give it much attention until I heard about it again yesterday from a friend of mine. And actually, Jim Sterling also did a thing about it this morning. So I decided I'd go ahead and talk about it myself. Unfortunately, I don't have much new to add because I have a brain. But I have a better example here that I want to share rather than the Star Fox thing. For those of you not aware, the new Star Fox coming out will have an invincible mode. In other words, you just don't take damage. And I am 100% in favor of that. You know why? Because I understand the meaning of the word optional. There is nothing requiring you to do that. It doesn't change anything about the game. They made the game, ground up, as if you weren't invincible. And then, having done that, they added the invincible option, which changes nothing. So there's literally no possible concept that you can use to explain how the game is made worse, functionally, due to the addition of this thing. And yet you would not believe the complaining that people have been ranting about it. Just, oh my god, this is stupid, dumb, and ridiculous, and only pansy, filthy casuals would ever buy this game and use that mode. It's classism, elitism, etc. Now, I actually have another example for this other than the recent game, which I want to bring up here. I forget if it's Mega Man 9 or 10, though, forgive me. But Mega Man 9 or 10 had an easy mode. And that easy mode was something I was 100% in favor of because it was optional. What they did was they made it so a lot of the jumps were less difficult and a lot of the bosses had less health, you know, that kind of a thing, right? And thus, you know, and I mention this because for those of you not aware, was it Mega Man 10? That actually makes more sense because Mega Man 10 was hard. Mega Man 10 was not an easy game. It was actually quite difficult. And that's great. In fact, that's one of the things I love about Mega Man 10. But you know what I also love? The idea that more people get to play that game because that option exists. That there are people who do not want... Did you seriously just sheep one of my imps? You did. That more people get to play that game and try out that game who aren't that skilled, who don't want that kind of challenge, who just want to have fun playing a Mega Man. We have just officially increased the market of a game by the addition of that mode. And that's awesome. And it's fully, truly optional. As I mentioned earlier, as I defined earlier. And I like that. A lot. Maybe I'm biased on the matter, because I am in general in favor of options in gaming. I've said this for years. But the very idea that people get upset about that is such an alien thought to me that I kind of wanted to open this up to a little bit of discussion from you guys. Maybe you guys can help explain this mentality to me, because I genuinely don't get it. Like, this isn't just a, oh, you're stupid. This is a, you're nonsensical. How could people actually get upset over a truly optional mode in any game for any reason is beyond my ability to comprehend. And again, I want to stress, by the definitions of truly optional, nothing favoring you for it, nothing favoring you against it, and it doesn't change the development of the core game. So in other words, it is completely segregate from the people who don't want to do that option. Hence, true optional. The development time. Do you know how easy it is to develop that kind of a thing? Do you know how long it took them to make that invincibility mode in Star Fox? I'll tell you how long. About an hour. And most of that was probably just playtesting. They probably just flipped a switch and implemented the option in the menu, which took more time than doing the invincibility mode itself, and then bam, done. Or how about the difficulty slider in the Elder Scrolls series and the Fallouts? That's also easy to explain and easy to do, because it would take very, very little implementation as long as they built the game to have the concept of a difficulty slider in mind, which they did. In other words, all it does is apply a formula to existing scales. That's it. Now, in fairness, the Mega Man 10 thing, that probably took a little bit more time, because it wasn't just a slider. It was actually adding stuff to the levels. But still, really? So I want to answer Zawan's thing here really quick. A game built from the ground up to have quest markers, and then people lament that it's built from the ground up to have quest. Other people say to low, just turn it off. It depends on one very important thing, Zawan. If it was written with the design of allowing you to play without the quest markers. Again, I point to Morrowind as a good example of this. Or not, actually, Oblivion's actually a better example of this, but in Morrowind, as I've said many times, the quests were written such that you could find your way without quest markers. Obviously, because there were no quest markers in Morrowind, although there were add-ons that added some. So, as long as there is the possibility of doing it without being hampered, I'm totally okay with that. I don't see any problem with that. Go ahead and just turn them off and you're fine. If it was designed to allow that for that kind of functionality. If it wasn't, well, that's a little bit more difficult. Okay, so it ruins the atmosphere of the game for who, exactly? You aren't playing it on easy mode, so why do you have a problem with it? Easy mode being a thing. You say it ruins the atmosphere of the game. Okay, for them? Are you seriously trying to be upset about the fact that someone else has a different playing experience than you? No, that's not an argument. God, I hate the Boar model in Warlords. Ugh. Which Elder Scrolls is my favorite? Oblivion. That's easy for me. Oblivion for the win. Oblivion for life. Now I gotta scroll up because I've had so many people responding to me here. Time. I already answered the development time thing. Some people can get mad because people brag about beating the game when they were playing easy versus someone on easy. That is a valid point that I don't think is valid, if that makes any sense. So I'm just gonna say no and move on. Alright, Javan has a big thing to say. I'm curious what he has to say. So Javan's on my side. Yay! That doesn't surprise me. Javan and I actually think surprisingly similar in game design. I gotta scroll up again. Wow, Rory. I like it. That guy was just trolling. It sounds like he was just probably trying to provoke a reaction. Oh yeah, it's funny you bring up Dark Souls because I wanted to bring up that too. I'm gonna say something really, really blunt here. I am totally in favor of an easy mode for Dark Souls, and I'll explain why. But I already did, so I don't need to add anything to it. We already talked about why. Expanding market is the biggest reason. How many people will never get to enjoy Dark Souls, which is a really well-designed Metroidvania game, which I'm hugely in favor of in general, because they're pushed away by the difficulty? And don't give me that it's not actually a difficult thing. Don't. Just don't go down that road, okay? Someone who actually has the option of playing that game in an easier mode, 100% in favor of that. And you know why? Because it's freaking optional. Because if you are like, oh man, I've been playing on easy mode, like Jason Torby just said, and he's like, oh man, I've been playing on easy mode and it's really unsatisfying. It's really easy to fix that, because then you can increase the difficulty and then have the enjoyment you want from it, rather than being cheated of it. That's what optional means! It's optional! I know, it's hard to understand, but that's the definition of the frickin' word! Why is this so difficult to comprehend? Your playstyle, your experience, is in absolutely no way changed by the fact that someone else is playing it differently than you. If you're actually trying to say that they are, like, cheapening the game because they're not enjoying it the way you think it should be enjoyed, that is nothing more than arrogant presumption. Actually, it's funny you say that, Roaring, because I did play as a mage in Dark Souls 1. Forgive me for actually getting upset for a moment, but this is something that I have been raging about for years. Literally years. This is something that goes back to the NES and SNES era. You know why? Game Genie. It's a little different, because back then we didn't really have difficulty sliders. But you know what we did have? A lot of games that were frickin' hard. Now, I like difficulty. I've actually talked about this before. When I have the time to devote to it, and it's a gameplay style that I enjoy. I have to add that. If a gameplay style I enjoy, like a Mega Man or whatever, and it's difficult, I tend to enjoy that. I tend to prefer that. But I had a lot of friends who were like, oh man, this game looks like it'll be a lot of fun, but it's just too hard for me. I actually lent out my Game Genie so that some of my friends would be able to play games they otherwise wouldn't be able to. And do you know how much frickin' bile and piss that people throw at them? Like, oh, you're just cheating. You're just ruining the game. Again, this is going back to the 80s. Late 80s, early 90s, but still. I'll just say 90s. Let's not exaggerate. This is going back to the 90s that I have been arguing this topic. Now, I would argue that the point of Dark Souls is not the difficulty. In fact, I have made that argument. I made that argument in my rumination on Dark Souls. You know what I think the point of Dark Souls is? 2 points, actually. First of all, interpretive storytelling. Duh. Really, I don't have anything else to add to that. Point 2, explorative, Metroidvania. We'll just call it Metroidvania, because that's what it is. You know, that sort of explorative, finding your own path, deciding your own route through things, figuring out what you can do where, and slowly getting better, and getting more equipment, that kind of thing. You know, the Metroidvania thing. I would argue that's the point of Dark Souls, not the difficulty. Well, the difficulty is definitely a facet of Dark Souls. I don't think calling it the point is really valid. That's just my opinion. I'm not going to say that's actually correct or not, but that is my opinion on the matter. I will say I actually find it interesting that one of the developers of Dark Souls himself is also in favor of an easy mode for Dark Souls. Oh, hey, we got our 150,000 gold mount here. Look at this thing. This is just, I love this thing. It's so cute. Anyways, words, but that's just my take on it. And I wanted to bring it up because, again, it was mentioned again recently, and I'm just so sick of people saying that Star Fox, yes, seriously, Extrasify, Star Fox is ruined as a game because there's going to be an easy mode added to it. You know, there's no, well, see, the thing is, the one Joker, I'm not sure I agree with that. Because, and I think some of my Dark Souls players here can agree with me on this, the visual and audio atmosphere of Dark Souls is amazing. Right? Visual audio atmosphere is fantastic. And so much of that dread and hopelessness comes from that. Not from the fact that you're being destroyed endlessly. Well, okay, not just from the fact that you're being destroyed endlessly. I will absolutely agree that being destroyed endlessly adds to that atmospheric sense. But I was playing as a mage, and I wasn't actually having that much difficulty with Dark Souls 1. In fairness, I was prepped. I knew what I was going into. The solution to all is wrath. I also watched quite a few, like, just for fun. I watched quite a few speedruns of Dark Souls. So I actually knew most of the strategies for the bosses walking into it. And I was playing a freaking mage. However, despite the fact that I had a relatively easy encounter with Dark Souls, I still got that overall impression of, oh, death, doom, darkness, God, everything is meaningless and hopeless. Because, again, that wonderful, amazing visual and audio design of the game. Everything about it just screams that same atmosphere, that same theme. I will absolutely agree with you, Zawan, that you do not get as much from playing it on easy mode. But that's their right. That is their choice to do that on easy mode. Because they either can't, or won't, or don't want to play it on to play it on hard mode. In fact, again, I hate to say this one more time, but once again, I go back to that expanding markets idea. How many more people would play Dark Souls if it had an easy mode? How many people have refused to play Dark Souls because of how much it's been hyped up as the super hard game? How many people have been like, no, I don't want to deal with that because of that difficulty, barrier to entry? You know what I mean? Whether or not the game is actually difficult or not is almost irrelevant at that point, because everyone talks constantly about how Dark Souls is this super hard game. And how that's the whole point of the game, like someone Joker just said in chat like a few minutes ago. Adding a difficulty option, keep stressing that word, would mean that more people can actually play their game, which adds to the art and culture of our society and gives them more money. And I want to stress once more that the whole adding a difficulty slider is cheap and easy to do from a development standpoint. It really is. It is not hard to do. Now, I will say that that is usually a cheap artificial form of difficulty. But that's kind of the point. Making something artificially easier is relatively easy to do and more acceptable, because the whole point is you initially made the proper difficulty. And Dark Souls is properly difficult. It is. I freely agree with that. It is a proper example of proper non-artificial difficulty, and I like that. So they already put the hard work into doing proper difficulty. Doing an easy mode of adding an easy mode is fully acceptable at that point, because they still get all the relative experience of the proper, other than the fact that it's just not hitting them as hard or whatever. So. The control scheme. Actually, when I played Dark Souls on the PC, I hated the controls. I absolutely hated them. Even after I finally got everything rebound all over the place to something that made a little bit more sense, it was still just, what? Why is this over here? But what Diesel over there is saying is kind of my point in a nutshell. If you don't want to play easy mode, great, that's fine, I'm with it. You don't have to use casual difficulty in StarCraft 2. You don't have to slide the difficulty down all the way in Oblivion. You don't have to use cheats in a game that otherwise doesn't have difficulty designed to it. You don't have to. It's optional. But if you're going to tell me that you like hot dogs and I like pizza and I am wrong for liking pizza, screw you. I don't mean that to any of my chat members. I just mean to people who have that attitude. Because I've encountered people who have that attitude. And it's just pure elitism. There really is no other explanation in my mind for what that is. It is pure elitism. I am better than you because I do it the right way. You know what? I don't even like pizza that much. Come at me, bro. I gotta be honest, bratwurst sounds really good tonight, but I'm not doing that, actually. Yeah.
Oh, stretch. Oh. Anyways, I just kind of wanted to get that off my chest because, again, I was reminded of it a few days ago, and I was reminded of it yesterday, and I was reminded of it this morning. So it was just something that was present in my mind, and I wanted to discuss that. Well, I didn't have much else lore to discuss. You can have easy mode, or no, what? Yes, exactly, Zawan. I'm down with that. I don't... See, you have to understand, this goes both ways. I don't want you to dumb down games for me, or for other people. I don't want you to make the game overall easier, or to put less effort into the hard mode. I don't want that. I don't want to ruin other people's gameplay experience, any more than I want them to ruin mine. In fact, I have a great way to explain this. World of Warcraft, PvP versus PvE. I have been saying for years the segregation between the two would be a good thing. You know why? Because both of us are ruined by the other. And I don't want them to be screwed up by the fact that there's some stuff that was changed in PvE, and so now they're screwed up by it. And I don't want to get screwed up because there's things in PvP that screwed us up. We're both being affected by this, okay? And I don't want either of us to be. And it is possible to do that because it's been done. It's been seen. I've seen games that actually segregate the two, and therefore no more ruining of the two experience. So to use the same thing, I don't want them to make Star Fox as if it was this super easy game and then add easy mode, because I want Star Fox to be hard. I'm good at Star Fox, and I want to have fun pushing through the difficulty of it, right? But I also don't want... So I don't want hard mode to be ruined any more than I want easy mode to be ruined. Does that make sense? Ah... Alright, I don't understand enough about Dark Souls to understand what you're suggesting, Samurai. Like, I've... Bull crap, I can't, Roaring. Having your cake without being able to eat it is just as stupid as being able to eat a cake you don't have. I have also argued that for years. That whole concept of can't have your cake and eat it too is dumb. The whole point is to have the cake and then eat it. So, like, you take a potato chip and eat it!
What do you need?
The signs of war are upon your garments, and sweat drips from your brow. Good, very good, Adri. Yes, of course,
For the
Sonic.
Horde.
Absolutely. Alright, brought your shamanistic stuff. Let's see what you got here, buddy. Okay, I'm with it, Samurai. I'm with that.
Sub.
The fierceness in the eyes of the raptors will be matched by those of our warriors. The lethargy that overcame me, even after these caps fell, was so strong. I refused this gift when it was first given me. Now I am proud to do my part in the name of the Horde. Ding! The Highland flesh-stalkers to the south are even fiercer than the others of their kind. They possess not just strength, but true cunning. When I was trapped by lethargy, even the amulets of strength failed to move me. But Torgen used the heart of the flesh-stalkers to imbue me with spirits that conquered my doubt, freeing me. Okay.
Go forth.
So this is kind of a nice callback to Vanilla. In Vanilla, you wandered around getting all of these... shamanistic powers to imbue this guy, and Gormal wasn't a shaman at the time. He was just stuck in the lethargy of post-fell orc. He was just, life is meaningless. And so we ran around in Vanilla getting all of these items, I should start heading south, to empower him, and to imbue him with shamanistic power so he could feel what something that wasn't fell energy felt like. So he could literally feel shamanistic energy. And now, in Cataclysm, he himself is a shaman and is tasking us to go get these same basics type of enchantments so we can go back and empower the other orcs at the camp. I just like the symmetry of that. Oh, crap! I forgot to take a ding picture. What zone are you in, Centorby? Jason Torby? It's not often I go into rage mode. I have a pretty good control over my temper, but some things just... God, really? This guy's a shaman. Nice, Centorby. How appropriate. The Ironforge. You gotta see your other fellow dwarves. Gotta see if they've got any need for help in, say, the hinterlands. With all those terrible quests. Don't forget to get the quest in Booty Bay that goes to the hinterlands. And that works too, Zuan. I'm okay with that. In fact, one of the things I've been okay for a long time in WoW, to use a similar example of what Zuan just mentioned, is the fact that certain things you can't get unless you're playing on a harder difficulty. Para exemple, I do not have, like, any Draenor raid achievements here. Because I can't. I don't have a raid group. I do it on LFR. That's the only raiding experience available to me. However, I still get some of the enjoyment of the game from being able to play on LNR. I don't get, the achievements. I don't get the titles. I don't get, I don't get the gear, obviously. But I also don't get, like I said, like the achievements. I can prove that I have not done Mythic Shadowlord Iskar. I have only done LFR. Miskar up here. Make sense? So, I'm okay with that idea. One thing I am very not okay with, and I've made this point many times, is locking story behind difficulty. Very not okay with that option. The fact that I literally do not get to see some of the actual relevant plot of this game because I can't do that difficulty because I don't have players to play with is dumb, in my opinion. Especially since it's mostly the other people issue Tetris, although time is an issue nowadays as well. But yeah, like for example, there is a very plot-relevant cutscene that happens after you beat I can never think of his name, Imperator Margok, on Heroic or on Mythic or whatever. You only see that if you're playing in Heroic and Mythic, and it's something really relevant to the lore. Something that just made me go, oh god, I need to think about, that doesn't exist if you don't play that on the hardest difficulty. You don't get to see that lore. This has been going back for a while now, actually. But I believe Cataclysm, I want to say, is really when that started being a thing in WoW. And it makes no sense to me. Locking gear behind lore, achievements, mounts, cosmetic things. Yeah, I'm with that. Story? Locking story behind lore? We don't even fight Sinestra unless you're doing it on Heroic, Technically, this goes all the way back to Wrath. And I want to stress that technically word because... actually, I'm not sure if this is true. Does Frostmourne only eat you in Heroic? Because I feel like that's true. But I'm not sure if that's true. Which one, Zoan? Like, which of my many opinions? Also, that's not the first time I've disagreed with Total Biscuit. Not that I have anything less than respect for the man, because he's awesome. Yeah, I was pretty sure that Frostmourne only eats you on Heroic. Now, that's not really a big deal. All you really see is a tiny little extra tidbit, and see Tyrannus Menethil in the sword helping you out. But still, that's where that technically began. The idea that you only get that little tidbit if you're playing on Heroic. And then in Kata, you don't see Sinestra at all if you're not playing on Heroic. You don't get to see... excuse me. That... Really, Zoan? Wow, my respect for Total Biscuit just plummeted. Holy crap. That's just weird. Anyways, you don't get to see the true fate of Ragnaros and the nature of what's going to happen in the Firelands after the raid. You don't get to see... Actually, I guess Dragon Soul hasn't changed all that much.
Yeah, you don't get to see Ra Den, who is a hugely important aspect of the lore in Throne of Thunder. I agree, Roaring. Oh, you weren't saying that at me. Okay, so say I agree with you. God, what else? You don't get to see the real aspect of the Shaw of Fear unless you're in Heroic. You're not getting to see. Trying to think what else. Well, obviously you don't get to see the fact that Archimonde is actually dead unless you're doing it on Heroic, because he actually drags you into the Nether in Heroic mode and dies in the Nether, which is significant because it means he's dead, forever dead. But you don't get that unless you're seeing Heroic. You don't get to see Cho'Gall, like I just mentioned with Margok, until you're in Heroic. I think that's actually everything. But yeah, the total absence of that just does not even make the tiniest bit of sense to me. The reason he left WoW was... Wait, hang on. You're going to have to elaborate. Zoan, what do you mean? He left WoW because it didn't have enough options? I'm confused now. Like, seriously, I'm lost on this statement. That also doesn't seem like him from what little I know about him. So I'm definitely misunderstanding at this point. Oh, I'm just thinking 6 levels, I'll be faster. Which I will probably never actually reach. LFR stands for looking for raid. It is the easiest of difficulties for raiding in this thing, because it doesn't require a group. You can LFR basically by yourself.
Strength and honor.
My preparations are made. All I need are the raptor hearts. As Torgan taught me, I transfer the power and spirit of these raptors into this orb. It will imbue our warriors with the fiery strength and intelligence of the raptors. For the Horde! Alright, last quest. In Arathi. LFR. I have heard more complaining about LFR than any other feature in the history of WoW, which I find hilarious, because I don't get that complaint. Again, I want to stress that LFR is effectively optional. No, Roaring. Also, someone else already did it. There's a video out, a machinima, that describes it. But yeah, no, I'm hugely in favor of LFR. Aside from the difficulty argument, I exist. That's about as much as I got for that. So there's a voice into my head. Ignore what's going on over there. Just ignore that. Help! My name is Myriel. I am a princess of the earth, and my captors, the giants, have trapped me beneath the Arathi Highlands. These crystal shards are the only way I can speak with the surface world. You know what? Actually, hang on. I'm sorry. I had a thought. This is going to sound weird, but bear with me. I'm going to do something particular here. So that's going to be our blood elf. Thank you, Design Deco. I'm going to want to go here.
I know this sounds weird, but we're doing this quest on this character for a reason. We're setting up for something in that will come back in the future. Back in the future. You know what? I'm just going to leave the LFR argument alone. I have seen that argument argued back and forth from both sides for a really long time. Literally since its inception in Dragon Soul. And at this point, I really don't think there's anything new to be added to the argument. It's been argued for forever. Nothing else to add. I've also given my alternative to LFR. Excuse me, alternatives to LFR, plural, because I've come up with more than one. So, and I do think those alternatives would be superior to LFR. I just think, you know, that, yeah. Yep, yep. I'm a little off target. What do you mean, Zawan? Like, I mean, like there is now? Easy, medium, hard, for example, or whatever? I'm okay with that. I like that idea. Yeah, 3-man Mythic, theoretically, would be really hard. You would have to be in complete conjunction with each other constantly. It would probably be tuned really tightly for a 3-man group. But they can do that. They've proven they can do that. You know, recently, in the more recent years, Blizzard's raiding designers, the actual people making those teams, have been able to make some very, very, very well-tuned, well-tightly designed raids and raid bosses. Yeah, I mean, Mythic Blackhand, for God's sakes. Or Mythic Archimond. Holy crap, you know? Hey, Darsh Monster. Have you got the cottons on or whatever? Hopefully you're recovering well, regardless. Yep, I went too far. Okay, so just pretend we're doing this on our Warlock for a second. My name is Myriel. I am a princess of the earth, and my captors, the giants, have trapped me beneath the Arathi Highlands. These crystal shards are the only way I can speak with the surface world. Please help me. Allies of the giants, the Drywhisker kobolds, have a shard like this in one of their Drywhisker Gorge to the east. To power the cluster, you must gather motes of Myriel from the kobolds and apply them to it. I beg you, Valvaxis, or excuse me, Despire, aid me. Yes, Sinestra was also a wonderful example of difficulty in modern raiding. Can't really praise most of the design of Dragon Soul bosses. I mean, there were some fun bosses in there, but there's also what's usually considered the worst raid boss in history, which is impressive when you consider that Molten Core is considered in that list. Well, if you want to, that's up to you, Shavan. I'm not going to argue. I'm just going to get away from you as fast as I can.
But yeah, no, I like the idea of difficulties despite the scaling idea. So it looks like we're having a little bit of an other players problem. So, we need a topic to talk about while we're doing this, because I do need to do this quest. It's an important quest, not just for now, but for the future. Yeah, I can. Oh well. I gotta be honest, Heroic Cho'Gall was no joke either. As Samurai just said, Roaring, I haven't actually played Dark Souls 2 yet. But I will probably do so, maybe. What's next after this lore run? Well, I'm gonna take a long nap. After that, I actually don't have anything planned. I'm gonna get back to regular stuff with the show, because Lord knows a lot of my viewers don't like Warcraft and want, you know, my regular features to be live again. So that's like priority one, basically, is getting back to my regular features on the show. Now the real question is, what does Dark Souls 1 have to do with Dark Souls 3? Since, you know, Dark Souls 1 basically has nothing to do with Dark Souls 2. I said basically. Don't pull it technically on me. Yeah, we still have Homeworld to play. I've got a list of games on my website. I actually don't even remember the full list right now to play through on the stream. I mean, XCOM, Homeworld. God, I can't remember what else. Interesting. Well, obviously, that's fine, Zawan. But I mean, there's also my roleplay stuff that should be going live on my Wednesdays, and my Primus stuff, which should be going live on my Thursdays. And then there's my Ruminations, the thing that started my show, which should be going live on Fridays. And I actually have a Then and Now kind of ready to go. I need to do the editing for it, but the recording side of that is actually all done. Oh yeah, I got him. I just can't loot him. Whatever. God, I hate this quest! It's such a shame that this is a really interesting quest that I really want to do. What do you guys think? Should I just do it off camera? Or should I stab myself? In the neck, preferably. So it's, you know, it's over quicker. What else do I have to stream? God, I feel like there's a bunch of games that are, like, I'm planning to do explorations of. Like No Man's Sky, for example. What did I say yesterday, Sonic? Oh yeah, I'm going to stab myself. Right. How about next week? How does that sound? Can I wait another week? What else is coming out? There's No Man's Sky coming out. There aren't actually that many games coming out this year that I am super excited about. In fact, I can't actually think of any. No, that's not true. I am looking forward to Star Fox. I'll probably go ahead and do an exploration of the new Star Fox. No, Roaring, it's just a random drop, and there's other people, and there's also lots of... It's a random drop rate, which is bad to begin with, and there's other people killing them, and their respawn rate isn't that great, so it's basically just a badly designed quest in every way. Confusion, you can check out my website and tell me how terrible it is if you want to. Lorerunner.com. It's functional for what I need it to be. I don't really have a lot of flashiness, I should say, not actual flash on it. Yeah, Pokemon, I'm looking forward to getting back into the Pokemon some year.
Of course, I'll be buying Pokemon Moon. Even though I'm still back on Black and White 2. And then I need to play X and Y. And then I need to play Omega and Alpha. Hey, OP Delete. I'm trying to think, what else is coming out this year? Bravely Default 2 is coming out, but that I can't explore that. Oh, actually, that reminds me. So I might be getting a 3DS with a capture card? Asterisk? Might? We'll see how that works out. I've already paid the money, but we'll see if I actually get the product or not. If I don't, I will arrange to get the money back. In fact, I've already talked to my bank about this. Been like, look, this is a little dodgy. It was $500, Sonic. I'll just go ahead and drop that number right there. But it's something I've wanted for a while. It's something I should have bought back in the day. It's something I still have use for to this day. So, yeah, that's an expense I'm willing to dump. Oh my god, this quest is terrible. Why is this the gateway quest? The rest of this quest is awesome. Back in vanilla, this quest actually went all over the place. No, I got one of the good ones. It's just... See, here's the situation. The gentleman who makes the good capture cards, I can't even remember his name right now. Well, there's this game called Kingdom Hearts on it. It's okay, it's a business expense. There's, the guy who makes the good capture cards, he's been out of the loop for forever, but he got in touch with a gentleman in Germany. And the two of them are like, you know, we're going to coordinate on this, and we're going to make these things happen again. So back in April, or, excuse me, May? March? What month is this? March. This month, like on the 6th or something like that, fairly recently, it finally got to the point where they were ready to do releases of these new capture cards. And I'm like, great! The problem was that was for European customers only. However, they were still going to have an opening for doing them for American customers. It was just happening later. So when that finally went live, when it was possible to try and get cards as an American, you know, as a non-European, I went ahead and signed up for one and paid for one. And so if they have stock, in other words, if there wasn't an issue with inventory, and if they're still willing to ship to the States, which is still kind of a, and if it's actually an American-based 3DS, which it should be, 3 ifs, but if all 3 ifs happen, then I will have a 3DS capture card. If not, I think I might finally give up. Yes, it is, Juju's. Absolutely. It's a very fun game to play. It is a lot of ifs. That's why I had to be like asterisk there, because... yeah... I might look at Deus Ex 2, just because someone has already requested for me to ruminate on Deus Ex and Deus Ex HR. But not Invisible War for some strange reason. How odd. Despire's dead, Jenkins. We killed her. And then brought her back to life, and it turns out she was actually a blood elf. Not a human. Thanks, Confusion. I didn't actually make it. A friend of mine did. I don't know, Dakota. Oh my god, one more. Oh, yes, you, drop it. Just do it, just do it. Ugh. Oh, god damn it. I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't say anything, Samurai. Anything at all. I need one more. How many times have I said that in this Lorerun? I need one more. Come on. Oh, thank god, we're finally done with the terrible quest. Freedom! Freedom. Can you bind a soul to a golem? Yes. However, the only people we know who do that are the Zandalari, and the results aren't fun for the soul. But I imagine we could probably make that happen in a way that's not, you know, slavery horribleness. Alright. What? Oh, right. Gosh darn it. No, that would be a, honestly, I don't think that would really qualify as an undead at all. If anything, that would be a really weird type of, Type 3A. Or no, excuse me, Type 3B undead. Because Type 1 undead has no soul attached. Hence, yeah. Oh god, Terracar. Don't worry, Kingdom Hearts 3 might finally come out if Disney ever lets them. I'm an idiot. The actual quest turn-in is in here. So I'm not free yet. Okay, so now, finally. The cluster of shards looks much like the shards of Myriel, but the same feeling of security doesn't pulse through them. Ah, you activated the shards. Already I feel more myself, oh, but alas, I am far from free. The 4 stones of binding are scattered throughout Arathi. These stones keep me pinned beneath the earth. To unlock them, you must unlock the strongest, the stone of inner binding. And to do that, you must gather keys from the other 3. The stones are watched by guardians, but if you're clever or lucky, you might find a way to banish them. Yeah, unfortunately, Kingdom Hearts 3 is very likely to be another step in the chapter rather than a conclusion to anything. Like, very likely. Or it'll just be unsatisfying and leave holes open, which is the other alternative there. I might, Sonic. So far, what I've seen of him is okay. So. I am 4x3 right now. I think. Yes, yes I am. Oh no! The elements are guarding it! Sorry. So originally, back in Vanilla, this quest actually forced you to go all the way down to the Badlands and find a particular dwarf. Don't worry, we'll be seeing him in Kata. It's just to fit the streaming layout. I actually hate playing in this format. And we'll actually be seeing him in Kata, like I said. We went all the way down there, and he's like, oh, quick, go do this horrible thing. And if you do this horrible thing, then I'll be able to help you. He's basically a former member of the Twilight's Hammer who went completely stark raving mad from being a member of the Twilight's Hammer. I can't possibly see why that would be happening. But yeah, he gives us the final tools we need to help assist this wonderful, innocent elemental of Earth who is being chained beneath the Earth by the other elementals for some reason. Honestly, Dakota, at this point, I'm kind of expecting that. I mean, seriously. We've probably already seen all of the Aqua footage that will be in Kingdom Hearts, and that one trailer teaser we've already seen. What do you want to bet? What do you want to bet? Yeah, I know, right, Shmadov. You have to admit, our player character is really, really dumb. In that particular sort of easy to manipulate kind of dumb. This is the stone of inner binding. It's the strongest of the binding stones, and must be unlocked for the others to open. Myriel speaks through the stone. You've done it! You opened the stones of binding. I can feel the shackles about me loosen, and freedom draws ever closer. You are a noble paladin, my rescuer. Opening the stones of binding loosened much of my confinement, but a lock still holds me chained. The keystone you see amongst this circle of stones, and the key is held by one of my captors, Watcher Fosrook.
You must obtain that key, which the Stone Watchers call the Rod of Order from Fosric, and use it to open the keystone. You have done so much to aid me. Just a little more, and my gratitude will shake the very foundations of the earth. So yeah, finding Mosric was actually a pain back in the day because he roamed a huge area. Like, he basically did this across the entire zone. And of course, you wouldn't be going nearly as fast as I am right now. Nowadays, he's just right here. And he's dead. It's funny you say that, Darch. The keystone is charged with tremendous geomantic energy. You place the rod in the keystone and a shudder is felt beneath you. Roar! What are you doing? Stop, foolish paladin! We cannot let you summon the creature Myriel. Ugh, I'm totally dead. As the stone goes quiet, you're left with a vague sense of unease. Something isn't right. Maybe you should tell Zarek of what you've done so far. Yeah, sure, why not? Those are stone giants that we just encountered, which it makes sense that stone giants would be binding the elementals, since if you remembered, stone giants were used as warriors, soldiers, and otherwise guardians against the minions of the old gods back in the day. So the stone giants are still keeping chained one of their minions. I know what you're thinking. Oh, ha! Myriel is evil. Well, no. That's why I wanted to do it on this character. And yeah, that is some good music. Not to spoil too much, but we'll be meeting her again when we get to Deepholm, which we're doing on this character. So,
Blood and thunder!
I know, Velvoxus. I should not have sent you. Forgive me. The whispers of the past are sometimes too strong.
Abu!
Myriel's a deceiver, an ancient force sealed long ago. She must be kept that way. You must confront her at the shards of Myriel where you first spoke with her. Summon her with this scroll, and when she has been fully brought to the surface, defeat her. Then take the eldritch shackles from her body and place them on the shards to keep her bound once more. Good luck. May my past trouble you no more.
Victory!
So this is the guy who actually gives us the go-to to go there. Another former Twilight's Hammer member. Just someone who's still doing their bidding. Sort of. No I am not, Jongo. Wow, that is a heck of an earthquake there. So, just gonna go ahead and summon Myriel here. What? Well, Voxus, or rather Despire, you've served me well, but why have you summoned me so soon? I haven't yet reached my full power. No matter, you were a fool to help me, and now you will pay. Ugh. And done. Myriel is gone forever, never to return. Yay. With that, Myriel is defeated. I wonder what happens to her now that she's defeated her. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. Either way, I'm going to go ahead and cut off here for lunch. I probably should have figured out lunch before now, but whatever. I will see you when we come back, and we will try to finish up the hinterlands. I don't think we have time to do all of the hinterlands today. So I will do my best to go through at least part of the hinterlands today. See you in a bit, guys.